Chapter 387. Who cares if he has her in his eyes? Also, who is he flaunting his love for? As a woman who only has money in her eyes, she wouldn't care about such things. Choked by Lin Jie's words, Lin Jie closed her eyes. She took a deep breath, and then another deep breath, and then another. Eventually, she fell silent. Roughly 10 seconds later, her lips curled up into a bright smile. Little guy, does he think that he can anger me just like that? With this thought in mind, Lin Jie picked up her phone and opened up a photo editing app. She then changed the photos that Lin Jie had taken of only Shi Yao into better-looking filters. After she was done editing the photos, she picked out a few that looked the best, added a watermark, and sent them over to Lin Jie's WeChat. Isn't Yao Yao especially beautiful in the photos? Do you have the urge to remove the watermark and preserve it for a long time? I'm not an unreasonable person, so I won't do something like that. If you really want it, I can do it. 188 renminbi per photo. Seeing that Lin Jie wasn't responding to her, Lin Jie pondered for 2 seconds before changing her phone's wallpaper to Shi Yao's photo and sent it over to Lin Jie. See, this can be used as my phone's wallpaper too. I'll be able to see Yao Yao as soon as I look at my phone. You're ignoring me? Does that mean that you don't want it? Alright then, since you don't want to talk to me, I'll just delete all the photos. That way, I'll disappear from this world for good. It's rare for Yao Yao to put on makeup or wear a gown. It's rare for me to see such an exquisite Yao Yao. It would be a pity to delete them. After sending the message, Lin Jie went to her photo album and selected all of Shi Yao's photos. After which, she sent the confirm deletion page over to Lin Jie. I'm really deleting them. Don't regret it. After sending the message, Lin Jie looked at his phone confidently and counted in his heart. 3, 2. Before he could even count to 1, a series of 188 RMBs had already appeared on her phone screen. Lin Jie's eyes gleamed as she received the red packets while counting the number of red packets. When she was done, she sent over a photo that had the same number of red packets and asked, "There are still 6 left. Are you sure you don't want them?" 30 seconds later, another 6 transfers of 188 yuan came in. After accepting the remaining 5 photos, Lin Jie sent them over to Lin Jie and said, "I'm sorry, I counted wrongly just now. There are only 5 photos left, so take the last 188 renminbi as payment for my free Photoshop for Yao Yao's photos." Thank you, boss. He had seen shameless people, but he had never seen such a shameless person. Lin Jie sneered coldly in his heart. He was just about to reply to Lin Jie with a shameless when, before he could even touch his phone screen, he heard a familiar voice that left him feeling exceptionally uncomfortable. "Grandpa Lin, happy birthday. This is my birthday present for you." Instinctively, Lin Jie raised his head to look in the direction of the voice. It was Liang Juxi's cousin. With a flattering smile on her face, she presented a gift box to her grandfather. "Grandpa Lin, I've picked this gift out for you. Do you like it?" As she said those words, Liang Juxi's cousin opened the gift box. To be honest, Lin Jie really didn't care what gift Liang Juxi's cousin had prepared for him. So, he quickly retracted his gaze and continued watching Shi Yao eat her cake. Chapter 388. But halfway through retracting his gaze, the gift that Liang Mumu took out from the corner of his eyes caught his attention. Liang Mumu's birthday present for his grandfather was also an inkstone. That inkstone was extremely similar to the one he had specially picked out for Softbun. To be more precise, if one didn't take a closer look, the resemblance between the two was as high as 100%. Lin Jie's gaze couldn't help but turn back to Liang Mumu. Liang Mumu took the inkstone with both hands and passed it over to Grandpa Lin. Then, with the same obedient and sweet tone as before, she said, "Grandpa Lin, I didn't intend to give you this gift from the very start because it clashed with Yao Yao's gift." Shi Yao, who was engrossed in eating her cake, absent-mindedly raised her head upon hearing her name, and she stared blankly at Liang Mumu and Grandpa Lin. "Grandpa Lin, I didn't mean to clash my gift with Yao Yao's." Liang Mumu seemed to be placed in a difficult position. Halfway through her words, she abruptly paused. A moment later, she spoke up once more. "But Grandpa Lin, I still have to apologize to you. I hope that you won't take it to heart." Seeing this, Lin Jiej couldn't help but click his tongue 3 times in his heart. Liang Juxi's cousin sure has good acting skills. Why doesn't she attend Beijing Film Academy instead? Oh, that's right. With her terrible grades, even if she were to become an art student, she probably wouldn't be able to get into Beijing Film Academy. On the other hand, Softbun. Even though she got all her math questions wrong, she was still able to get into G University. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej turned to look at Shi Yao, only to see that the latter had actually stopped eating her cake and was staring at Liang Mumu. He couldn't help but frown. Then, he reached out to push her head down and said softly, "Eat your food. Don't look around." Shi Yao pouted in response to Lin Jiej's actions, but she didn't retort. She picked up her fork and continued eating her cake. Why would I mind? After hearing Liang Mumu's words, Grandpa Lin was at a loss for words. Thus, he turned to Liang Huiling and said, "Huiling, you've really taught Mumu well." Liang Huiling replied with a polite smile, "Don't mention it, Uncle Lin. Isn't it because Mumu likes you and is afraid that you'll be unhappy? She never acts like this at home." Old Master Lin smiled even more happily. No matter what the gift is, what's important is the thought. As he spoke, Grandpa Lin turned his gaze to Liang Mumu, ready to accept her gift. But barely after Grandpa Lin raised his hand a little, Shin Balian suddenly spoke up, "Grandpa Lin, Mumu isn't just sensible, she's way too sensible. You might not know this, but Mumu respects you from the bottom of her heart. She saw this inkstone when we went out to play during the spring festival. Back then, she said that Grandpa Lin would like it, and she wanted to buy it as a birthday present for you. So, even if we were to bump into each other, it wouldn't be Mumu bumping into Yao Yao, but Yao Yao bumping into Yao Yao." Liang Mumu suddenly spoke up sternly, interrupting Shin Balian's words, "Balian, stop talking. It's all in the past. What's the point of saying this now?" "Oh, so this is the highlight of the show. She's using someone else's mouth to hint that Softbun didn't put much thought into her gift and stole her idea? Then, she would pretend to not pursue the matter and pretend to be a good person?" Chapter 389. Perhaps it was because Liang Juxi's cousin had mentioned the word Yao Yao, but Shi Yao raised her head to look at the two of them once more. What was there to look at? Could they possibly be any better than me? Lin Jiej couldn't help but reach out to pat Shi Yao's cheeks lightly. "If you don't want to eat this cake, I'll eat it." Hearing that Lin Jiej was going to snatch her cake, Shi Yao immediately lowered her head, shielded the cake with her hands, and began wolfing down the cake. Looking at Shi Yao's adorable table manners, Lin Jiej's eyes softened a little. He stared at her for a while longer before he finally lifted his eyes to look at the scene at the side. Shin Balian looked indignant at Liang Mumu's rebuke. She still wanted to say something, but in consideration of Liang Mumu, she eventually relented in the end. Seeing that Shin Balian had gone silent, Liang Mumu reverted back to her sweet self. She looked at Grandpa Lin with a look that seemed as if she was trying to resolve the matter peacefully before continuing, "Grandpa Lin, don't listen to Balian's nonsense. I bought this inkstone during the spring festival, and I was intending to give it to you as a birthday present. However, I believe that Yao Yao isn't like what Balian said, intentionally bumping into my birthday present. Liang Mumu's acting as a good person really made him wish that he could buy a whole car of good person cards for her. Wait, no, it should be fake good person cards." Lin Jiej really couldn't stand watching Liang Mumu's performance anymore. He was just about to retract his gaze to look at Shi Yao when Grandpa Lin spoke up, "Mumu, I know what you're saying even without you saying it. I know what kind of person Yao Yao is, and there's no way that she's intentionally bumping into your birthday present. It's clearly a coincidence." Hearing those words from his grandfather, Lin Jiej nearly burst into laughter. "Grandpa, do you really have to ruin the show like that? She's clearly trying her best to hint at something, so how can you continue with your act?" With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej reluctantly turned to look at Liang Mumu. As expected, the smile on Liang Mumu's face became a little less natural than before. Even her voice seemed to waver a little as she said, "Grandpa Lin, you're right. Yao Yao isn't that kind of person. Actually, I only learned that Yao Yao was going to give you an inkstone a month ago. I wanted to change the present I gave you, but I haven't been able to find a suitable one, so I could only give you the same one." It's fine, Grandpa Lin replied as he took the inkstone from Liang Mumu's hands. After which, he lowered his head to take a look at it before replying, "Not bad," out of politeness and perfunctorily. After which, he passed the inkstone over to Auntie Sun, gesturing for her to keep it. Compared to when Shi Yao had passed him the inkstone earlier, Grandpa Lin's current attitude was worlds apart. The displeasure and indignation in her heart made Liang Mumu grip her clothes tightly. She tilted her head slightly to look at the inkstone that Grandpa Lin had placed on the table, and she pursed her lips tightly before shooting Shen Balian a meaningful glance. Sensing Liang Mumu's hint, Shen Balian suddenly exclaimed in astonishment. Her voice was so loud that everyone in the first 2 rows of the banquet hall could hear her. Am I seeing things? The inkstone that Mumu gave Grandpa Lin is identical to the one that Yao Yao gave him? Chapter 390. She raised the inkstone to her eyes and examined it closely. Eventually, she brought it over to the inkstone Shi Yao had given her on the dining table and exclaimed, "Ah, these 2 inkstones are really identical. If that's the case, there's no doubt that one of them is the real one and the fake one. But Mumu, I was right in front of you when you bought the inkstone. You spent over 300,000 renminbi on it, so it's definitely the real deal." So, did Yao Yao give a fake to Grandpa Lin on his birthday? Grandpa Lin likes her so much, but she actually gave him a fake one? Furthermore, she's the fiancée of the Lin family, the future matriarch of the Lin family. To actually give her a fake, this is too. White Lotus, what are you talking about? Don't you know that this is Grandpa Lin's birthday party? Liang Mumu stomped her feet anxiously before reaching out to tug Shen Balian's sleeve in an attempt to stop her from spouting nonsense. Taking in this sight, Lin Jiej's expression turned a little cold. What are you pretending for? They had clearly agreed on this beforehand. If they really didn't want that White Lotus woman to say anything, they wouldn't have stopped her earlier. Why did they have to wait until everything was said before standing up to be the peacemaker? When Shen Balian fell silent, Liang Mumu discreetly shot a glance at Jiang Wangue. Just as she had expected, Jiang Wangue, who was a strong-willed and prideful woman, had a displeased expression on her face. She knew that she had achieved her goal and was secretly delighted. However, her expression was apologetic. "Grandpa Lin, please don't be angry. I didn't know that this gift would be exactly the same. I only took a quick glance at Yao Yao's gift. I didn't think that it would be like this. White Lotus has always been straightforward with her words. Please don't take it to heart. I apologize on her behalf. Moreover, the most important thing about the gift is the thought. Yao Yao has always been filial to you. Even if she bought a fake inkstone, she didn't mean anything else. After all, her family's financial situation is limited. Grandpa Lin really didn't mind it at all. Even if Shi Yao were to give him something that cost a RMB, he would still be happy. However, Liang Mumu's words had revealed far too much information. Just now, Shen Balian was so excited that her voice was very loud, attracting the attention of many people. Now, because she was apologizing, her voice was very loud. Almost everyone at the banquet was attracted to her. As such, even though Liang Mumu's words seemed to be very appropriate, it ended up attracting quite a bit of discussion from the crowd. In the end, the inkstone that old Mr. Lin had placed on the table to show off is a fake. Isn't this granddaughter-in-law a little too immature? He actually gave a fake gift. Judging from Miss Liang's words, old Master Lin's granddaughter-in-law doesn't have a good family background. Why would old Master Lin choose such a granddaughter-in-law for his grandson? No matter what, they have to be well-matched in social status, right? As the discussions grew louder and louder, not only did Jiang Wangue's expression turn ugly, but even the other relatives of the Lin clan also looked embarrassed and displeased. At this moment, Shi Yao really couldn't bring herself to continue eating the cake anymore. Chapter 391. Just like what she had discussed with Lung Wan, she thought that Liang Mumu was trying to tamper with the present she had bought. But from the looks of it, she was wrong. Or rather, she had underestimated Liang Mumu. From the start to the end, Liang Mumu had never thought of tampering with the inkstone she had bought. Liang Mumu knew that she was too poor to afford an expensive present, so she intentionally made use of her greatest weakness to lay a trap for her. It had to be said that Liang Mumu was indeed formidable. At the very least, her ploy had succeeded this time. How could an inkstone that she had bought with 200 renminbi be real? Most likely, Qin Iran was her informant when she appeared at the antique market back then, and Liang Mumu was probably there to ask the shop owner what kind of inkstone she had bought. On the other hand, Liang Mumu was using the appearance of the inkstone to buy the real one. In truth, Grandpa Lin wouldn't have minded whether she had bought a real inkstone or a fake one. Similarly, it wasn't too much for her to buy a fake inkstone either. It was just that she was the granddaughter-in-law of the Lin clan. Liang Mumu's actions had embarrassed the Lin clan, and the culprit who had embarrassed the Lin clan was her. If that was the case, Liang Mumu's ploy had really succeeded. The Lin clan would surely hate her to death. Even if Grandpa Lin, who doted on her, and Sis Jiai, who had a good relationship with her, didn't mind it, the other members of the Lin clan might not. Putting aside the fact that her engagement with Lin Jiej was going to be annulled sooner or later, if she didn't, the Lin clan might very well cancel the engagement after this incident. But now that things had gotten to this point, the only thing she could do was apologize to Grandpa Lin. With such thoughts in mind, she turned to look at Grandpa Lin. She had clearly embarrassed the Lin clan and made Grandpa Lin's birthday unhappy, but there wasn't the slightest hint of blame in the depths of his eyes. Instead, they were filled with worry. She had always known that Grandpa Lin loved her from the bottom of his heart, but the sight before her still left her a little touched and a little sad. She squeezed the fork in her palm tightly and called out to Old Master Lin, "Grandpa Lin." But before she could even say, "I'm sorry," Old Master Lin said, "Yao Yao, it's fine. Grandpa doesn't lack money." Hearing Grandpa Lin's words, Lin Jiai, who was seated beside Shi Yao, also chimed in, "That's right. It doesn't matter if it's true or not. What's important is the sincerity. Besides, let others say whatever they want. It's not our place to interfere, so it's fine, Yao Yao." It would have been better if Grandpa Lin and Lin Jiai hadn't said anything at all, but their words made Shi Yao feel even more guilty and sad. She lowered her eyelids slightly and moved her lips again. She wanted to say "I'm sorry," but just as she opened her mouth, before she could say a word, a piece of cake was sent into her mouth. She was stunned for a moment before she slowly turned her head around, only to see Lin Jiej standing there, as if nothing had happened at all. Meeting her gaze, Lin Jiej explained nonchalantly, "The fruit on the cake won't taste good if it's left out for too long." After saying those words, he stabbed another piece of cake into Shi Yao's mouth. This time, he raised his head to look at the people around him, who were either watching the show or watching the show. After Shi Yao finished the piece of cake that he had stabbed into her mouth, he casually asked, "How can you be so sure that Miss Liang's inkstone is real and Yao Yao's is fake?" Chapter 392. How can you be so sure that Miss Liang's inkstone is real and Yao Yao's is fake? Lin Jiej's question caused the entire banquet hall to fall silent, and many people's gazes fell upon him. Under everyone's gazes, Lin Jiej didn't show the slightest sign of nervousness. He continued staring at Shi Yao's side profile lazily, and after she swallowed the cake in her mouth, he picked up another piece and fed it to her mouth. Then, with the same nonchalant tone as before, he asked, "Is it Miss Liang who swears that her inkstone is real, or is it Yao Yao who personally admits that her inkstone is fake?" Hearing those words, Lin Jiai immediately snapped out of her daze and said, "Indeed, Jiej is right. The two inkstones do look similar, but we can't be sure which one is real and which one is fake. Why is everyone so adamant that Yao Yao's inkstone is fake?" That's right. Miss Lin's words do make sense. Indeed. Isn't it a little too careless to say that the Lin family's granddaughter-in-law's inkstone is fake without appraising it? Following Lin Jiai's words, quite a few people also changed their tune. Hearing the whispers of the crowd, Lin Jiej couldn't help but curl his lips into a mocking smile. These spectators sure are amusing. Didn't they say that Softbun's inkstone was fake just a second ago? Why did they immediately change their tune after being reminded by me a second later? What's wrong with this world? Is it because I, Li Bai, can't get big, or is I, Diaochan, lacking in mana? Why is this world so weird? With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej fed Shi Yao another piece of cake. But barely after Shi Yao swallowed the cake, Shun Balian, who was standing beside Liang Mumu, suddenly spoke up, "Is there even a need to ask whether the inkstone is real or not? Mumu spent 300,000 renminbi to buy it from an official source, so it has to be real." This time, before Lin Jiej could say anything, Lin Jiai had already interjected. "Does buying it from an official source mean that it's real? Besides, the authenticity of an item doesn't have much to do with its price, does it? There are plenty of people who spend a lot of money to buy fake products, so how do you explain that?" Seemingly displeased by Lin Jiai's words, Shen Balian opened her mouth, intending to refute her. But it was a pity that Lin Jiej didn't give her the opportunity to do so. He immediately spoke up, "Sis, what you said is incorrect. If a person doesn't have the ability to discern the authenticity of an item, they would have to purchase it through the proper channels. Only those who do have the ability to discern the authenticity of an item would head to the market." At this moment, upon hearing Lin Jiej's words, Liang Mumu, who had been silent all this while, suddenly spoke up, "That's right. I don't have the ability to verify the authenticity of these items, so when I bought the inkstone, I had to purchase it through a certified channel." Just whose side was that dog Lin Jiej on? "Why are you helping Liang Mumu now?" Having been held back, Lin Jiai glared at Lin Jiej in displeasure. Sensing Lin Jiai's killing intent, Lin Jiej continued feeding Shiyao the cake with an impassive expression. When it came to acting, he had never been afraid of anyone. Wasn't it obvious that Liang Mumu had been led into a trap by him? Since the pit was already dug and the person was already inside, he could now start burying the pit. Chapter 393. I remember that Uncle Gu is an expert in appraising. I saw him on the guest list a while ago. May I know where he's seated today? Hearing those words, Lin Jiej craned his neck to scan the surroundings. I remember Uncle Gu being an expert in appraising. The person in charge of the guest list was Lin Jiej Sant, Lin Gunnan. Hearing Lin Jiej stout, she immediately replied, "I know. He's at the first row by the window." Having already known where Uncle Gu was, Lin Jiej glanced in the direction his aunt had pointed out and acted as if he had seen the person he was looking for. A moment later, realization dawned on him, and he said, "Ah, I see Uncle Gu. Sis, it's more convenient for you over there. So may I trouble you to invite Uncle Gu over?" Lin Jiai replied readily, "Sure." Before she stood up, Lin Jiai added, "For Yao Yao's sake, I'm running an errand for you for free. If it had been any other time, I would have charged you a fee." Speechless, Lin Jiej's lips twitched, but he didn't say a word. To think that a money grubber could be to such an extent, it was truly frightening. It didn't take long for Lin Jiai to invite Uncle Gu over. Uncle Gu had a close relationship with Lin Jiej's father, Lin Gubei, so he first greeted Grandpa Lin and exchanged a few pleasantries with Lin Gubei before getting straight to the point, asking if there was anything he needed help with. Lin Jiej first politely greeted Uncle Gu before briefly explaining the situation to him. Finally, he got straight to the point. "Uncle Gu, the reason why I invited you here is to have you appraise these two inkstones. Which one is the real one, and which one is the fake?" Hearing Lin Jiej's words, Shiyao nearly choked on her cake. So, young Master Lin actually invited an expert over to appraise her inkstone? But her inkstone was probably just a blade of grass, and a blade of grass that cost 200 renminbi at that. Was young Master Lin really here to help her? Was he trying to harm her? With such thoughts in mind, Shiyao hurriedly swallowed the cake in her mouth and tried to stop him. It was one thing if he didn't appraise the inkstone, but if he were to appraise it for real, wouldn't she become a laughingstock? However, barely after Shiyao said wait, Lin Jiej stuffed another piece of cake into her mouth and said, "Uncle Gu, before you start appraising, I'll have to ask you to wait for a moment." As he spoke, he turned to Liang Mumu and asked, "Miss Liang, may I know which inkstone you have?" Liang Mumu pointed to her inkstone and said, "It's this, Annie-san." Lin Jiej barely managed to utter those two words before he suddenly paused. "Forget it. I think it's best not to call her Annie Sunday. If Annie Sun were to bring the inkstone over to Miss Liang, and the results of the appraisal didn't meet Miss Liang's expectations, Miss Liang might say that Auntie Sun had tampered with the inkstone and try to frame Miss Liang. If so, we'll be in deep trouble. So, Miss Liang, I think it would be best for you to carry your inkstone in your embrace. Remember to hold it tightly so that you don't drop it. Hearing Lin Jie's sarcasm, Liang Mumu's face turned a little awkward, but she still picked up her inkstone. After confirming that there were no problems, Lin Jie turned to Uncle Gu and said, "Uncle Gu, I'll be troubling you then." Shi Yao's body shuddered. "Do you really have to bring disaster upon us so quickly? Can't you at least give us a little buffer?" Chapter 394. Who wants to eat cake? Who has the heart to eat cake? Shi Yao shook her head. "I don't want to eat cake. I just want to." Before she could finish her words, Lin Jie had already cut her off. "It's a good thing that you don't want to eat it anymore. If you wanted to eat it again, I wouldn't have given it to you." Is there something wrong with this person's head? My main point isn't the first half of my sentence, but the second half, all right? Shi Yao glared at Lin Jie angrily. "What I want to say has nothing to do with cake. What I want to say is, oh." Lin Jie dragged out his words, as if he had figured out the reason behind it. "I know what you want to say. You want to say thank you, right? Thank you? You look like thank you." Shi Yao felt that the upbringing she'd built up since young was about to be destroyed because of Lin Jie. "You want to thank me for feeding you cake, right? There's no need to thank me." Lin Jie replied generously. Afraid that Shi Yao would really say something that she shouldn't have, he quickly added, "To tell you the truth, the only thing I've taken the initiative to feed since I was young is a panda." What did he mean by that? Was he treating her like a panda? All of a sudden, Shi Yao didn't feel like talking to Lin Jie anymore. She turned her head around to look at Lin Jie. Is Soft Bun unhappy? Was there a problem with what I said earlier?" Lin Jie pondered over his words seriously for a moment before coming to a realization. He leaned in close to Shi Yao and whispered, "What I said earlier wasn't treating you like a panda. I meant that you're just like a panda. You're the panda. You're just like a panda from head to toe." Shi Yao's head twisted even more violently. The only thing Lin Jie could see was black hair and black hair. Without thinking too much into it, Lin Jie continued speaking. "Think about it. What are pandas? They're the country's treasures. As a patriot, feeding pandas is a patriotic act. The reason why I said that you're just like a panda isn't because you're a panda, but because you're my." Before Lin Jie could say the word treasure, he suddenly realized what he had just said and fell silent. Even though he didn't finish his words, Shi Yao could already guess what he was going to say. Her heart skipped a beat, and she couldn't help but lower her eyelids. The two of them stopped talking. The surroundings suddenly became even quieter. Everyone's attention was on Uncle Gu. After about 5 minutes, Uncle Gu took off his glasses after carefully examining the two inkstones. Lin Jie anxiously asked, "Uncle Gu, what's the result of your appraisal?" Uncle Gu wasn't in a hurry to respond to Lin Jie's words. Out of respect, he greeted Old Master Lin first before picking up the inkstone Shi Yao had bought. With a curious look on his face, he asked, "Did Miss Shi buy this inkstone?" Lin Jie's words had thrown Shi Yao's mind into disarray, so she fell silent for a moment. Sitting beside her, Lin Jie patted her head lightly and said, "Panda, Uncle Gu is asking you a question. Who are you calling a panda?" Chapter 395. Miss Shi, may I ask how much did you spend on this inkstone? This. Compared to Liang Mumu's 300,000 renminbi, her money really didn't seem to be worth mentioning at all. Shi Yao understood the principle of honesty. So even though she was placed in a difficult position, she still spoke the truth. "I bought it with 200 renminbi, 200 renminbi? Uncle Gu was astonished. Clearly, he didn't believe Shi Yao's words at all. With a chuckle, he said, "Miss Shi, you must be joking with me. I'm afraid that you'll have to add at least 3 more zeros behind the 200 renminbi, right? 3 zeros. Wouldn't that be 200,000 renminbi? You must be joking." Her monthly living expenses were only 1,000 renminbi, so where did she get 200,000 renminbi from? Shi Yao shook her head and replied earnestly, "No, I'm not joking, Uncle Gu. I really bought it with 200 renminbi." Uncle Gu stared at Shi Yao for a moment, and knowing that she wasn't joking with him, he continued then, "Miss Shi, if I may be so bold as to ask you, where did you buy it from?" Oh, compared to how much it cost, this question was much easier to answer. Without any hesitation, Shi Yao replied, "I bought it from an antique market. I picked it up from a random shop." Antique market? Even though there were many people there, It was possible that those who were knowledgeable in the trade might be able to get their hands on some good stuff. Hearing those words, Uncle Gu seemed to have vaguely understood something, and he continued asking, "Monsieur, do you have some understanding of appraising?" After allowing Uncle Gu to ask a few more questions to Shuyao, Lin Jiej finally got to the crux of the matter. Without waiting for Shuyao to speak, he asked curiously, "Uncle Gu, don't keep us in suspense. Why don't you get straight to the point?" "Indeed, little Gu, you should get straight to the point." Grandpa Lin also chimed in. Seeing that Grandpa Lin had spoken up, Uncle Gu didn't press Shuyao any further. Instead, he turned to Grandpa Lin and explained, "Miss Shur, this inkstone is a one-in-a-million treasure. This is an inkstone that has been passed down from the Qing dynasty, and it has several hundred years of history." Hearing those words, Shuyao thought that she was hallucinating. She blinked her eyes frantically, but the scenery around her hadn't changed at all. So, she wasn't dreaming. Was she hallucinating? Shuyao couldn't help but discreetly touch her ears. Following which, she heard Grandpa Lin's voice, "Little Gu, does that mean that the birthday present Yao Yao gave me is the real deal? Of course, it's even more authentic than gold. The market value of this inkstone is at least $200,000. Furthermore, old Mr. Lin, look at the jade on this inkstone. It's clear and translucent. One look, and you can tell that it's a superior product." 200,000? But Yao Yao said that she bought it with 200 renminbi. As Lin Jai spoke, she turned to Shuyao and asked, "Yao Yao, did you win the lottery behind our backs?" Feeling as if she was dreaming, the dazed Shuyao shook her head and replied, "I didn't. I really spent 200 renminbi to buy it." That's why this is incredible. The antique market is a mystical place. Those who are knowledgeable about it are able to find priceless treasures at a very low price. Yet, Miss Shur managed to find a treasure worth $200,000 with just 200 renminbi. What does this mean? It means that Miss Shur is an expert in this field. Uncle Gu chimed in, and the more he spoke, the more agitated he became. Let me tell you, in the field of appraising, experience is the most important factor. This is the first time I've seen such an incredible appraiser at such a young age. Grandpa Lin. Chapter 396. Expert? Genius? Shuyao felt as if she had just heard a heavenly book, and she felt even more lightheaded. Oh? Who is she? Where is she? What is she going through? I see. Grandpa Lin nodded calmly, but in the next second, he couldn't help but burst into laughter. Yao Yao has always been so formidable. She's always able to surprise me. Ha ha, ha ha, Uncle Gu. Grandpa Lin, congratulations on having such a formidable granddaughter. You're too kind. Grandpa Lin spoke as politely as he could, but there was a hint of pride in his eyes, as if saying that it was only natural. Seeing that Grandpa Lin and Uncle Gu had forgotten about the important matter at hand, Lin Jai hurriedly interjected, "Uncle Gu, since the appraisal results for Yao Yao's inkstone are out, what about Miss Liang's? Her inkstone." Before Lin Jai could finish her words, Uncle Gu had already interjected, "You mean the other inkstone? There's no need to appraise it at all. Anyone with the slightest bit of knowledge should be able to tell that it's a fake with a single glance." A fake? Liang Mumu, who had been confident all this while, suddenly exclaimed in astonishment, "How is that possible? I spent 300,000 renminbi on it. How could it be a fake?" Shuyao was equally astonished. The inkstone that Liang Mumu spent 300,000 renminbi on was actually a fake, and the one she spent 200 renminbi on was a real one? Liang Mumu had intended to frame her, but she ended up going for wool and coming home shorn. Did she just get lucky? Did she just lie down and bully her? But it's a fake. Look at this inkstone. It looks very high-end, isn't it? But in truth, it's because the merchant had soaked it in oil beforehand to create a false impression. This isn't jade at all, but a stone similar to jade, Uncle Gu explained to Liang Mumu's bewilderment. After saying those words, he turned to Grandpa Lin and asked, "Grandpa Lin, I would like to speak with Miss Shur a little longer. May I know if that's all right?" Grandpa Lin, of course. I'll be troubling you then." After exchanging some pleasantries with Grandpa Lin, Uncle Gu turned to Shuyao and asked, "Miss Shur, May I ask you where you learned your appraising skills from? Appraising skills? Who did you learn it from? She couldn't even learn A, C, F, G, and conic curves and radii. How could she have the leisure to appraise treasures? Besides, even if she really had the leisure, she wouldn't learn to appraise treasures. Treasures couldn't be eaten as food. As a qualified foodie, if she had the time, she would definitely learn to cook first. Did this Uncle Goo get bewitched, or was he bewitched? All he asked was a bunch of random questions. Even though Shi Yao was grumbling in her heart, she still replied politely and honestly, Uncle Goo, I haven't learned anything in this field before. Never learned it before? How could this be? If he hadn't learned it before, how could he buy a premium item for 200 yuan? Uncle Goo pondered for a moment, and the only possibility he could think of was, so, Miss Shi is just a hobby? With that thought in mind, Uncle Goo turned to look at old Master Lin, who was standing at the side, and exclaimed in amazement, even an amateur can be so powerful. This means that he has extraordinary talent. Old Master Lin, this is not just a simple genius, this is a genius. Genius? Oh? Shi Yao blinked her eyes in confusion. Chapter 397. Even though it was a joyous occasion to be complimented, Shi Yao still felt a little guilty. She couldn't help but speak up once more, Uncle Goo, I'm really just lucky. I was introduced to a shop by a friend, and I saw that the inkstone wasn't too bad. When I saw that it only cost 200 renminbi, I quickly paid for it and ran away with it. To buy an inkstone worth 200,000 renminbi for 200 renminbi, who would believe her if she said that she didn't know how to appraise it? Hearing Shi Yao's words, Uncle Goo thought that she was just being humble, and his respect for her deepened. Old Master Lin, youngsters these days are getting more and more prideful. It's rare to see someone as humble as your granddaughter-in-law. Furthermore, Miss Shi only treated it as paying for it before running away with it. This shows that she's decisive. Excuse me, you can be praised for being humble even if you speak the truth these days? How can you be praised for being decisive if you're afraid that the seller will go back on his words? Shi Yao's eyes blinked even more intensely. Who could tell her what kind of tricks Uncle Goo was playing? Or can someone tell me that my name is really Shi Yao and not Cheat? Hearing Uncle G's compliments, old Master Lin was even more delighted, and he couldn't stop smiling. Of course. Look at who's the one who decided to be his granddaughter-in-law. Grandpa Lin, calm down, don't get complacent, don't get complacent. Shi Yao prayed in her heart, but it didn't work at all. Old Master Lin's compliments grew even louder. Little Goo, it's not that I want to brag, but Yao Yao has always been a good student, beautiful, considerate, and filial. She's truly a top-notch lady. Our Lin clan has really picked up a treasure, hugging the inkstone that Uncle Goo had identified as a fake. Liang Mumu looked at old Master Lin's gleeful expression, then at the Lin clan's smiling face, and finally at Jiang Wangui's face. When she saw the usually unsmiling Jiang Wangui's lips curling up into a smile, she couldn't help but tighten her grip on the inkstone in her hands. She really spent 300,000 renminbi on this inkstone, so how could it possibly be fake? Also, that Goo fellow kept coming up with new ways to flatter Shi Yao. Could he possibly be in cahoots with Shi Yao? She was clearly trying to make Shi Yao struggle on her deathbed, so why did she end up in such a pathetic state instead? Hearing Grandpa Lin's arrogant words of Yao Yao, Liang Mumu's body trembled in anger. She did not believe that her inkstone was fake. It must be Gu Liangchuan who was lying. The more she thought about it, the more indignant Liang Mumu felt. Eventually, she couldn't help but interrupt Grandpa Lin's words. Mr. Gu, your reputation isn't just for show, is it? Hearing Liang Mumu's words, Uncle Gu was stunned for a few seconds before he turned to Liang Mumu with a frown and asked, Miss Liang, what do you mean by that? What do you mean? That's what it means. Due to her rage, Liang Mumu's words had become a little irrational. You took a casual glance at my inkstone and declared that it's a fake. Judging from your perfunctory attitude, could it be that you're trying to curry favor with the Lin clan by spouting such nonsense? Chapter 398. Let me tell you, the item you're carrying in your hands can easily be found in night markets, tourist attractions, wholesale markets, and the internet. What do you mean by 300,000 renminbi? It's only worth 30 renminbi at most, and if you were to purchase it, it would only cost you around 10 renminbi. Don't think that my words are harsh, but I'm just telling you the truth. Unlike antiques like porcelain or ancient paintings, there's no upper limit to the price of an inkstone. It's not that there aren't any valuable inkstones in the world, but they're simply too rare. 200,000 renminbi is already an astronomical sum for an inkstone, and yet, you actually spent 300,000 renminbi on it? It's not that I want to criticize you, but how lacking of common sense do you have to be to do something like that? Could it be that you intentionally made up a fake to fool me, and now that I've seen through it, you're trying to blame me instead? Also, you said that I have an undeserved reputation? Of all the people here, there should be quite a few of you who have heard of me, right? I'm sure that there are quite a few of you who have come to me to appraise an inkstone, right? Miss Liang, you weren't doubting me with your words earlier but flaunting your ignorance. There's a saying that goes, ignorance isn't scary, what's scary is pretending to be ignorant. In this aspect, Miss Liang, I advise you to learn from Miss Shi and learn to be humble and courteous. Faced with Uncle Ji's sharp tongue, Liang Mumu didn't even have a chance to speak. In the end, her face turned pale and green under Uncle Ji's words, and it was hard to tell whether it was out of anger or speechlessness. Having been watching the show by the side, Lin Jiej knew that the pit was almost filled up, so he finally spoke up, Uncle Gu, I'm really sorry. I only came here to invite you to appraise an inkstone, but I didn't think that I would offend you instead. Forget it. Forget it. There's no need for me to bicker with a junior. If there's nothing else for me here, I'll be returning to my seat to drink some wine. Uncle Gu waved his hand and left. But barely after taking 2 steps, Uncle Gu suddenly halted. There's something that I know isn't the right time to say, but after some thought, I still decided to say it. It's not that I'm trying to stir up trouble, but the real Miss Shi hasn't said a word at all. On the other hand, the fake Miss Liang has been incessantly stirring up trouble before I appraise it. After saying those words, Uncle Gu turned around and walked away. None of the people present were fools. Earlier, perhaps some of them hadn't thought too much about it. But now that Uncle Gu had pointed it out, everyone thought about the cause and effect, and gradually came to their senses. It would have been better if Mr. Gu didn't mention it. Now that you mention it, it's really scary. Miss Liang is so young, but she is so scheming. She clearly wants to make the Lin family's granddaughter-in-law a joke. Unfortunately, she shot herself in the foot. In the end, she became the laughingstock. Listening to the discussions around him, Old Master Lin's expression became a little displeased. After all, he was the founder of Lin's enterprise, and his aura was still there. Usually, he looked happy like a kind old man, but when he was serious, he was full of courage. Huiling, you taught a good child. Chapter 399. Lin Jiej Sant, Lin Gunan, interjected, Madame Liang, it's your responsibility to discipline them, so there's no need for you to tell us about it. You can just do it at home. As for paying us a visit to apologize, there's no need for you to do so. I doubt that my father, my elder brother, my sister-in-law, and my niece-in-law will be willing to accept your apology. Gunan is right. Zhang Wangue, who hadn't said a word since the beginning, finally spoke up. My Lin family's reputation isn't something that anyone can hit just because they want to. After doing so, they just need to apologize. Liang Huiling smiled apologetically and said, Yes, yes, yes. Sister Wangue and Sister Gunan are right. This matter is too embarrassing. I'll discipline Mumu strictly when I get back. I hope you can calm down. Besides, today is Uncle Lin's birthday, so we should celebrate it happily. There's no need to make such a big fuss over such a small matter, don't you think? Small matter? Bullying Soft Bun is a small matter? Then, may I ask, what is a major event? A hint of displeasure flashed across the depths of Lin Jiej's eyes, but before anyone could speak up, he pretended to casually speak up, Auntie Liang. It seems like you really treat Miss Liang as your own daughter. Not only did you give her a huge sum of money, you even taught her not to do anything wrong. Following Lin Jiej's words, the crowd began whispering among themselves once more. Oh my God, isn't Miss Liang the biological daughter of the Liang family? Don't you know? She calls Liang Huiling Auntie. She's not really the daughter of a rich family. She was adopted because her parents died early. Oh my God, I'm speechless. She's not even her biological daughter. How could she have the nerve to spend hundreds of thousands on a birthday present? Hearing the discussions around her, Liang Mumu's complexion turned even more awful. On the other hand, a satisfied smile curled up on Lin Jiej's lips. Didn't you just say that Soft Bun's family background is limited, thus causing Soft Bun to be criticized for her poor background? All right then, I'll give you a taste of your own medicine and let everyone know that you're not the biological daughter of the Liang clan at all. She said it as if no one would lie to him. What was this called? The heavens would deal with the scum. I'm Soft Bun's sky. I'll take care of all the despicable people around her. However, Liang Huiling was right about one thing. Today was Grandpa's birthday. Grandpa's happiness came first. In many things, one should know when to stop before going too far. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej suddenly thought of something, and he asked, speaking of which, don't you usually give someone a birthday present in return? Auntie Sun, who was in charge of returning the gifts, replied, yes, young master. Miss Liang and Miss Shen have both given my grandfather a birthday present. Even though it was such an unpleasant incident, I still have to return the favor. As Lin Jiej spoke, he fell into deep thought. A moment later, he spoke up once more. Auntie Sun, get the driver to buy a box of green tea from the supermarket to return the favor to Miss Liang. As for Miss Shen, haven't the lotuses in our backyard bloomed over the past few days? Ask the driver to pick one and give it to Miss Shen as a gift. Remember, it must be a white lotus. The whiter the better. Green tea, lotus flower. This was clearly a roundabout way of scolding people as green tea bitches and white lotus flowers. Sure Yao couldn't help but turn to look at Lin Jiej. Poison. This is way too poisonous. Everyone else in the room also caught the hint in Lin Jiej's words, and quite a few of them couldn't help but burst into laughter. This left Liang Mumu and Shun Balian even more embarrassed. All right, that's all for this matter. Lin Gubei, who hadn't stopped Lin Jiej all this while, finally stepped forward to speak up. He shot a glance at Liang Mumu and Shen Balian, and with a relatively normal tone, he said, the two of you should return to your seats too. Wait a moment. Lin Jiai, who hadn't spoken a word yet, suddenly spoke up. Her words had drawn quite a few gazes in her direction. As if she didn't notice the gazes directed at her, she turned her gaze back to Liang Mumu and Shen Balian and said, you can return to your seats, but before that, there's something you have to do. As she spoke, she shifted her gaze to Shi Yao and said, and that is to apologize to Yao Yao. Liang Mumu and Shun Balian stood on the spot, not saying a word for a long time. Roughly half a minute later, Lin Jiai seemed to have lost her patience and spoke up once more, apologize. The two of them still didn't say a word. Frowning, Lin Jiai repeated once more, apologize. Apologize to Yao Yao. Liang Mumu pursed her lips, not saying a word. Shin Balian turned her head away, but she didn't say a word. Lin Jiai abruptly stood up, raised her hand, and smashed it heavily on her chair, following which a crack appeared on the chair, and Lin Jiai's deep voice sounded once more. I said, apologize. Chapter 400. Lin Jiai's actions were too sudden and too explosive. Other than the dignified and virtuous Jiang Wangue, who was sipping on his tea, and Lin Jiej, who was already used to it, everyone else was shocked by Lin Jiai's actions. This was especially so for Liang Mumu and Shun Balian. Their bodies trembled in fear, and their faces paled a little. Jiai, look at how they're so frightened that they can't even speak. Is this all right? I'll apologize. As Liang Mumu's aunt, Liang Huiling was still a little protective of her. After recovering from the shock brought by Lin Jiai, she immediately spoke up. But halfway through her words, Lin Jiai's cold voice suddenly sounded in her ears. Are you her? Liang Huiling was rendered speechless by Lin Jiai's words. Aunt Liang, what I want is for Liang Mumu and that unknown person to apologize. As Lin Jiai spoke, her gaze turned to Liang Mumu and Shan Balian. There's a limit to my patience. I'll say it one last time. As those words left her mouth, Lin Jiai's hands clenched into fists, and with the cracking of her bones, she squeezed another word out of her mouth, Dao. Before Lin Jiai could finish her words, Shun Balian had already shrieked, I'll apologize, I'll apologize. Don't hit me, don't hit me. As she spoke, Shun Balian turned to Shi Yao and said, I'm sorry, I'm sorry. Lin Jai didn't think much of Shun Balian at all. Seeing that the latter had apologized, she cursed idiot in her heart before turning her gaze to Liang Mumu and said, It's your turn now. Liang Mumu pursed her lips, not saying a word. Lin Jai frowned. Her exquisite face was filled with anger, as if her patience had run out. However, before she could flare up, Liang Mumu had already turned to look at Shi Yao. She glared at Shi Yao with hatred in her heart, but at the same time, she was also terrified of Lin Jai. It took a lot of effort for her to force herself to say 2 words, I'm sorry. Who are you apologizing to? Lin Jai frowned in dissatisfaction. Me? My grandfather? My mother? My aunt? My brother? Could it be Sister Zhang? Liang Mumu's eyes reddened from Lin Jai's rebuke. She clenched her fists tightly as she stared at Shi Yao silently for a moment before saying, Yao Yao, I'm sorry. Is Yao Yao something you can call? Lin Jai was still dissatisfied with Liang Mumu's apology, so she picked on her words once more. Liang Mumu's complexion turned even more awful. Under the gazes of so many people, she couldn't hold back her tears any longer, and tears welled up in her eyes. Her lips quivered, and it was only when the tears blurred her vision and she couldn't see Shi Yao anymore did she finally move her lips and say, Miss Shi, I'm sorry. Satisfied, Lin Jai turned her gaze away from Liang Mumu and Shun Balian and sat back down on her chair. It was only after she sat down that she realized that Shi Yao was staring at her with widened eyes. Chapter 401. Sis Jai, I'm not a well-educated person, so please don't lie to me. Shi Yao looked at Lin Jai's beautiful and slender hands before turning to look at the chair Lin Jai was sitting on, and in disbelief, she asked, Is that the case? Isn't that the case? Lin Jai replied with a question of her own, but at the same time, she also felt that her excuse wasn't as reasonable as it seemed. That doesn't seem to be the case. However, Yao Yao, I'm not usually like this. It's just that my period is coming. Speaking up to this point, Lin Jai suddenly felt that her excuse couldn't have been better. Yao Yao, you should know that. You'll feel a little irritable at times like this. Women are always like this for a few days every month. A glint of agreement flashed across the depths of Shi Yao's eyes as she said, Me too. Every time it happens, I'll feel inexplicably unhappy. Usually, as long as I eat something, I'll feel blissful. But during those few days, no matter how much I eat, I'll still feel a heavy weight in my heart, making me feel really uncomfortable. Lin Jai quickly went along with the topic and asked, Yao Yao, which days have you been feeling unwell? Seated by the side, Lin Jiej had overheard the conversation between the 2 ladies. Were all girls' conversations like this? Didn't they say that they were going to talk about Lin Jai's rudeness? Why did it suddenly turn into her period? Also, Lin Jai actually asked Softbun when she felt uncomfortable. Is she asking when Shi Yao's period is? It's best if I don't listen to this kind of private conversation between girls, all right? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jiej shifted his gaze away with a reddened face to look out the window. However, his body was clearly inching closer to Shi Yao. Me? Shi Yao tilted her head to the side and pondered for a moment. It should be soon. It's usually on the 28th or 29th of the month. It's just a few days away. Then, you'll have to keep warm for the next few days. Try not to blow on the air conditioner too much. If you catch a cold, you'll get a stomachache. Also, remember to drink some brown sugar water when you feel uncomfortable in the next few days. It's best if you don't eat cold and spicy food. It'll make you feel better. Oh, and don't overwork yourself. Listening to Lin Jiai's gentle reminder, Lin Jiej's eyebrows knitted together. There were actually so many rules and regulations when a girl was feeling unwell? Lin Jiej pondered for a moment before he picked up his phone, tapped open his notebook, and began typing. After memorizing everything that Lin Jai had said, he turned his attention back to the conversation between the 2 ladies. The topic had changed from menstruation to television dramas. Women sure are fickle. Lin Jiej couldn't help but mutter in his heart. Chapter 402. Lin Jai had always been a man of her word. A second after she made up her mind, She grabbed her bag, stood up, and said, "Take good care of Yao Yao," to Lin Jiej before leaving in a hurry. Lin Jiai drank a little, so she didn't drive to the company herself. Instead, she called for her chauffeur to wait for her at the entrance of Beijing World Hotel. It was already close to 9 at night, but the traffic was still a little congested in this bustling area. In order to pass the time, Lin Jiai sat in the back seat and fiddled with her phone. Not too long later, a notification suddenly popped up on her phone, indicating that it was low on battery. She passed her phone to the chauffeur to charge it, and with nothing to do, she wound down the car window. There were many pedestrians by the roadside, and there were quite a few couples strolling intimately together. When passing by the overhead bridge, she could also see some people setting up stalls, selling all kinds of accessories, and smoking barbecue. Lin Jiai stared at the scenery outside the car window for a long while before she suddenly realized that it had been a very, very long time since she last walked through such a down-to-earth night market. The traffic finally improved a little, and the car was no longer stationary. However, it was still moving at a very slow pace. After walking for a very long time, Lin Jiai suddenly saw a young man dressed in a white shirt riding by the roadside on a bicycle. The night breeze was a little strong, causing his white shirt to flutter about. Lin Jiai stared at the figure for a very long time, and the more she looked at it, the more familiar she found it. All of a sudden, she exclaimed in shock, "Stop the car." The chauffeur slammed on the brakes. "Young miss," before the chauffeur could finish his words, Lin Jiai had already pushed open the car door, jumped down, and chased after the young man on the bicycle. She was wearing high heels, so it wasn't convenient for her to run. The road was a little uneven, and in a moment of carelessness, she twisted her ankle. It wasn't serious, but it still hurt a little. She hurriedly took off her shoes, lifted her elegant dress, and chased after the young man. No matter how fast Lin Jiai ran, she couldn't outrun the bicycle. It was fortunate that there was a crossroad ahead, and the bicycle came to a stop at a red light. Panting heavily, Lin Jiai ran up to the bicycle, and without even daring to catch her breath, she abruptly reached out and grabbed the white-shirt young man sitting on the bicycle. "Qin Ting." The boy in white turned around in astonishment. His eyes met Lin Jiai's, and it took a long while before he finally spoke up. "Is there anything I can help you with?" Lin Jiai didn't say a word. Instead, she stared fixedly at the man before her. The red light ahead turned green, and the young man who was in a hurry to leave saw Lin Jiai tugging at his clothes, so he spoke up once more. "Young mistress, I'm sorry, may I ask, this time?" Before he could finish his words, Lin Jiai had already recovered from her daze. She quickly let go of the man's clothes and apologized. "I'm sorry, I mistook you for someone else." "It's okay." The boy replied politely and left on his bicycle. Soon, his figure disappeared into the crowd. But Lin Jiai was still standing on the spot. Cars hurried to and fro around her, but Lin Jiai maintained her previous posture, not moving in the slightest. Yes, she had mistaken him for someone else. How could it be him? That person just now was just a little bit similar to the person in her memory. He was the biggest liar in the world. He promised to accompany her for a lifetime, but he left her. Chapter 403. Young Miss Jiai? The chauffeur walked up to Lin Jiai and greeted her respectfully a few times before Lin Jiai snapped out of her daze. She glanced at the chauffeur silently. The chauffeur picked up a pair of shoes and placed them before Lin Jiai. "Miss Jiai, here are your shoes." Lin Jiai still didn't say a word. Instead, she stepped into the shoes and walked over to the car. The chauffeur quickly followed behind her and opened the car door for her. Lin Jiai bent down and got into the car. By the time the chauffeur got into the car, Lin Jiai had already reverted back to the arrogant and domineering young miss of the Lin family. It was as if the helpless and dazed look she had felt earlier was just a figment of her imagination. After passing the intersection ahead, the road suddenly cleared up. Soon, the car arrived at the entrance of the Lin family enterprise. Upon seeing the car, the security guard immediately ran over and opened the door for her. Lin Jiai told the chauffeur, "You can return to the hotel first before getting out of the car." Ignoring the security guard's greeting, she walked straight into the building. Grandpa Lin's birthday banquet started early, but it didn't end early either. After sending off the guests one after another, the banquet hall was empty except for a few relatives of the Lin family. Lin Jiai, who had been gone for more than 2 hours, still hadn't returned. While Shi Yao was heading to the washroom, she called Lin Jiai for the 3rd time. Just when she thought that the call would be the same as before and no one would pick up, it was picked up. Yao Yao? Hearing Lin Jiai's voice, Shi Yao's heart finally calmed down. Sis Jiai, Grandpa Lin's birthday banquet is almost over. Are you still coming over? Oh, I nearly forgot. Yao Yao, I'm really sorry, but something came up at the last minute, so I won't be able to make it. I'll send the chocolates to your school tomorrow if I'm free. If not, I'll get my secretary to send them over. Lin Jiai's voice was as gentle as ever, but for some reason, Shi Yao felt that something was amiss. She frowned and replied, "It's fine, Sis Jiai." A moment later, she couldn't help but ask worriedly, "Sis Jiai, are you all right?" "I'm fine. Of course I'm fine. What could possibly happen to me? I'm busy earning money." Lin Jiai chuckled softly on the phone. So she had been thinking too much. "All right then, Sis Jiai, I won't disturb you any longer. You should get back to what you were doing." "Okay, Yao Yao my little darling. Moi goodbye." Shi Yao replied with a soft goodbye before hanging up the call. She put away her phone, tidied herself up, and walked out of the bathroom. She stood in front of the basin and had just turned on the tap when the bathroom door that she had just closed opened again. Hearing the commotion, Shi Yao instinctively raised her head to look at the entrance of the washroom through the mirror. It was Liang Mumu. Her complexion didn't look good. Perhaps because she had been crying, the meticulous makeup on her face had been ruined. The mascara around her eyes was dyed black. She saw her too, looked at her for a moment, and then, as if she were a stranger, walked up to her and turned on the faucet next to hers. Shi Yao also felt that there was nothing much for her to say to Liang Mumu, so she calmly washed her hands before turning around to leave. But barely after taking a few steps, Liang Mumu suddenly called out to her, "Shi Yao?" Chapter 404. But barely after she took a few steps, Liang Mumu suddenly called out to her, "Shi Yao?" Why did she suddenly call out to me? Shi Yao was perplexed, but her footsteps showed no signs of slowing down at all. "Shi Yao." Liang Mumu spoke up once more, but this time, her voice was much higher than before. "Don't misunderstand. I didn't mean anything by calling out to you." Following Liang Mumu's words, Shi Yao could hear the sound of her high heels hurriedly stepping on the ground. Shi Yao knew that Liang Mumu had caught up to her. A slight frown appeared on her forehead as she hastened her footsteps. "Does she think that I'm someone she can catch up to just because I want to? Besides, I don't want to hear it even if I want to." "Shi Yao, why are you running? Or are you afraid that I'll hit you?" "Are you afraid that I'll hit you?" Liang Mumu asked. In the past, she didn't think that there was anything wrong with Liang Mumu's head. But now, she realized that her intelligence was really lacking. Could it be that Liang Mumu had really treated her as a friend in the past, and as a result, she thought that she was doing the right thing no matter what she did? With this thought in mind, Shi Yao hastened her footsteps even more. "Shi Yao, I swear that I won't hit you. Are you done yet? Do you really think that I'm afraid that I'll hit you?" Shi Yao didn't turn around, and her footsteps didn't stop either. Instead, she replied, "I'm afraid that I'll hit you." It was hard to tell whether Liang Mumu was angered by Shi Yao's words or that she really thought that she wouldn't be able to catch up to her anymore. But she went straight to the point. "Shi Yao, the reason why I called out to you is to tell you a secret, and that secret is..." As the latter secret slipped out of her mouth, Shi Yao replied with a hint of mockery in her voice, "Liang Mumu, where do you get the confidence that I'll believe you?" As she spoke, Shi Yao's footsteps came to a halt as she turned around to look at Liang Mumu. Compared to the ridiculousness she had felt earlier, her expression was much more solemn. "Liang Mumu, I won't believe you even if there are 10 or 100 secrets between us, let alone a single one. Don't think that I don't know that the secret you mentioned earlier is just to sow discord between us. Do you really think that I'm a fool who only knows how to eat?" Shi Yao paused for a moment before continuing. "Perhaps, if not for today's matter, I might still have some feelings for you. But right now, you're nothing more than a fleeting cloud to me. I don't believe you. It's not that you're trying to harm me. It's just that I'm unable to forgive you for what you did during Grandpa Lin's birthday banquet. Grandpa Lin treated me well, but he treated you well as well. You're clearly an ungrateful, cold-blooded, and heartless person." Having said all that she needed to say, Shiryao didn't show any signs of staying any longer. She simply turned around and left. Perhaps Liang Mumu still had something to say to her, but she really wasn't interested in listening to it anymore. At the same time, on the first floor of the Beijing World Hotel, Lin Jiej was personally sending Uncle Gu off. "Uncle Gu, thank you so much for today. There's no need for you to stand on ceremony with me. Back then, you were the one who helped me obtain a painting that caught my eye. I already owe you a favor, and I promised you that if you ever need my help in the future, I'll do my best to help you." At this point, Uncle Gu suddenly burst into laughter. "It's just that I didn't think that you would ask me for help in the end, just to put in a few words for Miss Shi. You've really made a huge loss this time." Chapter 405. Not to mention, he was helping Softbun this time around. Not only did he not feel like he was making a loss, he even felt like he had profited greatly. What was that saying again? Even 1,000 gold coins couldn't buy Softbun's happiness. As long as he could make Softbun happy, he was willing to spend even 10,000 gold coins. "This is the first time I've seen you so concerned about a girl. Back then, when you were young, you would talk to all the boys around you. But no matter how hard we tried to coax you, you wouldn't open your mouth to speak to a girl. Back then, your father and I were worried that there might be something wrong with you, that you preferred boys over girls. Your grandmother was still alive back then, and she would hug you and show you the photos of those female celebrities." Lin Jiej was rendered speechless. So, it turned out that his childhood had been so tragic? Alright, it's getting late, so let's not talk about this anymore. I hope that the next time I see you, I'll hear about your marriage with Miss Shi. I like those words. Lin Jiej's speechless frown immediately smoothed out. "Uncle Gu, I'll be counting on your blessings." After saying those words, he even opened the car door for Uncle Gu. After Uncle Gu got into the car and left, he returned to the hotel. Lin Jiej was intending to head straight to the second floor to look for Shiryao, but just as he was about to reach the elevator, he inadvertently saw a familiar figure at the entrance of the first-floor bathroom. It was Liang Juicy. With a cigarette in his hand, he was chatting with a beautiful young lady. Both of them were holding onto their phones, and it seemed like they were exchanging phone numbers. "Heh, you're still in the mood to flirt?" Lin Jiej's footsteps suddenly came to a halt. He turned around and began walking toward Liang Juicy. Just as Liang Juicy was about to grab the phone number, he suddenly felt a chill run down his spine. He instinctively turned around, only to see Lin Jiej walking toward him with a cold expression on his face. Liang Juicy's hand trembled in fright, and his phone fell to the ground. Without any hesitation, he bent down to grab his phone, and without even checking to see if it was damaged, he immediately ran away. Lin Jiej also hastened his footsteps. Liang Juicy pushed open a door and dived in, only to realize that it was a staircase. He desperately tried to block the door, but he was no match for Lin Jiej's strength. Before the door could be pushed open, he had already begun running up the stairs. In the end, he barely made it 2 floors before Lin Jiej knocked him out. Big bro, I was wrong. With nowhere to run, Liang Juicy immediately began to beg for mercy. Big bro, you can hit me, but can you not hit my face? I rely on my face to make a living. Woo! I already told you not to hit my face, so why did you have to hit my face instead? You're robbing me of my chance to be a handsome man. Brother, I really don't know what Mumu has done. Ouch. Liang Mumu. Hero, please show some mercy. I'll give you all the erotic comics I've collected. It's fine if you don't want them, but why are you hitting me harder? It hurts. It really hurts. I swear that I'll discipline Liang Mumu harshly when I get home. No. I'll have my parents take away her financial freedom. Is that not enough? Then I'll trick my parents into sending her to my hometown. That should be fine, right? If she goes back to her hometown, she won't be able to do it anymore. Chapter 406. If that's still not enough, I'll give that little fiancé of yours a huge present. Lin Jiej was just about to stop when he heard that Liang Mumu would be sent back to her hometown, but upon hearing the latter half of Liang Juxi's words, he couldn't help but raise his fist once more. Is this how you give yourself away? With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej said, I want potato chips. No problem. Putting potato chips aside, I'll have yogurt, pudding, jelly, Oreos, white rabbit creamy candy, QQ candy, beef jerky. I have everything you need. And so, Liang Juxi finally escaped death. After Grandpa Lin's birthday celebration, Shi Yao placed all of her attention on her final exams. It was only when the final exams were over that Shi Yao finally logged into the game. Coincidentally, before she could even head to the sexy and frisky group to ask who was playing, she saw 111,111, who was online, and he even invited her to join his team. Shi Yao accepted the invitation. After entering the room, before she could say a word, Mr. Number's voice sounded in her earpiece. You're free? Shi Yao knew that he was referring to the end of her final exams. A week before the final exams, she had told him that she would be taking a break from the game for the time being in order to revise for the time being. I'm free. Shi Yao paused for a moment before continuing. Aren't you taking your final exams for the next 2 days just like me? Are you not free yet? Me? Mr. Numbers asked doubtfully. He started the game, and after entering the game's spawn island, he continued. It's not the exam that freed me but me. Playing games every day and still being able to study well? Who are you trying to fool? With such a thought in mind, Shi Yao asked, You must have written some nonsense to free yourself from the exam, right? You must be joking. Mr. Numbers chuckled softly before replying haughtily, I'm the correct answer. The correct answer? I'm the teacher who sets the questions. Shi Yao grabbed a piece of beef jerky and stuffed it into her mouth. You're really fat. It's a pity that it's only limited to the U in your mouth. 111111. I'm really not lying to you. I'm the answer. If I'm different from the answer, then the answer must be wrong. In order to prevent Mr. Numbers from boasting too much, Shi Yao chose to remain silent. 111111 said as he leaped out of the plane with Shi Yao and flew toward Jorgopal. I'm really not exaggerating, but back in high school, I had to keep my eyes closed the entire time. As soon as I opened my eyes, the teacher would ponder for 3 seconds before saying that he had misspoken. Yes, you're not exaggerating. You're just boasting rhythmically. Just that, I wonder if Mr. Numbers would catch my chin when he's bragging. If he were to accidentally blow his chin off, wouldn't it shatter the floor? Seeing that her silence wasn't enough to stop less than 111,111 from bragging, Shi Yao could only change the topic and say, Oh right, there's something that I almost forgot. Do you still remember the friend you introduced to me when I was going to the antique market? As Shi Yao said those words, she and Mr. Numbers landed on the ground. Mr. Numbers casually shattered a pane of glass, and with a wallet sound, he entered the room. Then, his voice sounded in Shi Yao's ears, I remember. Before Shi Yao could say anything, Mr. Numbers had already asked, What's wrong? Chapter 407. Less than 111,111. If you don't believe me, why are you still saying it? Shi Yao, what should I do? I really want to sew Mr. Numbers' venomous mouth shut. 111,111. But I like to hear things that people don't believe. Shi Yao, so, I was the one who misunderstood Mr. Numbers, and he wasn't speaking ill of me? Less than 111,111. Hurry up and tell me. Mr. Numbers seemed to be quite curious about it. It seemed like she had really misunderstood him. Only then did Shi Yao speak up. I bought an inkstone from the shop you recommended. Do you know how much it cost? On the other end of the game, Lin Jiej heard Shi Yao's question and instinctively wanted to reply, 200. But before he could say anything, he heard Shi Yao's voice once more. You'll never guess it. What kind of joke is this? I'm the one who set the price for the inkstone. How could I not know? However, Lin Jiej quickly swallowed the 200 that was on the verge of blurting out, 50,000? Shi Yao, as expected of a tycoon, 10,000 right off the bat. Lin Jiej silently sang in his heart, I'll act as if I don't see anything when I'm supposed to play along with you. Then, he asked, then, 5,000? Sure, Yao. That's my living expenses for a semester. How should I act in order to play along with you? Lin Jiej silently sang in his heart once more. She was the one who asked him to guess. So why did he end up getting choked by her? Women sure are willful. But then again, I'm willing to play along with her. Lin Jiej continued guessing. 3,000? 1,800? 1,800? Forget it. I knew you wouldn't be able to guess it. As if presenting a treasure, Shi Yao continued, actually, I only spent 200 renminbi on it. Oh, that price sure is unbelievable. Even though Lin Jiej's words were filled with excitement, he maintained a calm expression on his face as he sniped down a person. Sure, Yao. You can't believe it? Then what happens next will shock you to death. Do you know how much that 200 yuan inkstone is actually worth? I know, but it's because I love you that I chose to perform this kind of help. After silently singing this line, Lin Jiej asked, how much? He thought that Shi Yao would ask him to make a guess like before, but who could have thought that the young lady would excitedly tell him the price right away? 200,000. This isn't going according to the script. Lin Jiej pondered for a moment before replying, impressive. It was hard to tell whether it was due to Zuan's compliment, but Shi Yao's next words sounded very gleeful and boastful. Isn't that so? I also think I'm amazing. He bought an inkstone worth 200,000 yuan with 200 yuan. Who can do it? I suspect that I'm a cheat. Life with cheats is just so valiant. As long as you're happy, you're good-looking, so whatever you say is right. In any case, as someone who knows the truth, I'll remain silent and not tell you that your cheat is Lin Jiej. Lin Jiej didn't interrupt her. Sigh, there's nothing I can do about it. I was born with divine luck, and I can't even block it. Aren't you envious? Following behind Lin Jiej, Shi Yao staggered toward the safe zone with a gun in her hand as she continued to speak proudly. However, before she could finish her words, a notification suddenly popped up on her phone. While controlling the direction, she accidentally tapped on it, and she saw a video. Chapter 408. Shi Yao was very familiar with the person in the video, so she couldn't help but take a look. It was only after she finished watching the video that she realized that the person who sent her the message was someone she didn't want to have anything to do with at the moment. Why would Liang Mumu send her this video? To prove that the secret she told me on Grandpa Lin's birthday was real? But did Liang Mumu forget something as well? Before she could verify it with her own eyes, she wouldn't believe anything Liang Mumu said. While Shi Yao was deep in thought, the phone in her hand suddenly vibrated. Snapping out of her daze, she realized that it was a WeChat notification. It was a message from less than 111,111. Did you disconnect? Shi Yao hurriedly replied. I received a message, so I accidentally switched out of the game. Mr. Numbers didn't reply to her, and she didn't reply to him either. Instead, she returned to the game. Interrupted by Liang Mumu's video, Shi Yao didn't continue boasting to Mr. Numbers. When she switched out of the game earlier, the blue zone had arrived, and she had lost more than half of her health bar. Her situation was still considered normal, but Mr. Numbers was the one who was acting strangely. He could clearly outrun the blue zone, but he chose to stay by her side instead. While Shi Yao healed herself, she couldn't help but ask, why didn't you outrun the blue zone either? Hearing Shi Yao's voice, Lin Jiej's eyebrows shot up. Was there even a need to ask? Of course it was to eat the poison zone together with her. However, Lin Jiej didn't say a word. Instead, his fingers smoothly maneuvered the screen of his phone, and with a leap, he entered the safe zone. He crawled into the bushes and took out a hemostatic pack to replenish his health before replying to Shi Yao. It's been a long time since I've eaten poison. I miss the taste of it. Shi Yao, who was drinking a mouthful of yogurt, nearly spurted it out when she heard less than 111,111's reply. This reply, I'll give him 88 points and give him the rest in the form of 666 points. I really can't give him any more, not even a single point, because I'm afraid that he'll get too arrogant. With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao replied, Are you the rumored drug addict, young man? What about you? After healing himself, Mr. Numbers stood up from the bushes and leaped onto a huge boulder. Hugging his 98k, he glanced around and said, Are you a drug addict, young lady? Beauty? Hearing those words, Shi Yao's heart leaped in joy. She had completely forgotten that she was mocking Mr. Numbers earlier on. That's right. I'm an esports addict, Beauty, and you're an esports addict, Beauty. Handsome young man. I've long heard that your acting skills are heaven-defying. It's a pleasure to meet you. 111111. You're too kind. However, beautiful girl, I've heard that you're as beautiful as a fairy since a long time ago. Mr. Numbers sure knows how to talk. After swallowing the jelly, Shi Yao replied gleefully, You're overpraising me, handsome young man. You might not know this, but I've always been perplexed by the word handsome that my teacher taught me. It was only when I met you that I finally understood. You're handsome. 111,111. I'm ashamed, beautiful girl. If you're on the street and someone praises you for being good-looking, don't ever say that I'm not good-looking, because they'll beat you up and call you a hypocrite. Don't you know that your existence has saved the beauty market? Shi Yao was so overwhelmed by the compliments that she couldn't help but blurt out, Say, you're so handsome that even the gods would be enraged by you, and I'm so beautiful that even the heavens would be enraged by me. We sure are a match made in heaven. A match made in heaven? Shi Yao blurted out those words without even thinking through them. It was only then that she realized that she seemed to have used the wrong word. Chapter 409. Just as Shi Yao was about to correct his mistake, less than 111,111's voice sounded in her earpiece. That's right. You're in charge of being pretty, and I'm in charge of being handsome. You're in charge of picking up herbs, and I'm in charge of killing. This isn't just a match made in heaven. It's more like a match made in heaven. 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 This Mr. Numbers is even more casual than me. All of a sudden, the burden on Shi Yao's heart was lifted, and she swallowed back the words she was about to correct him. Shi Yao thought that this would be the end of his boasting. But who could have thought that less than 111,111 would suddenly speak up once more? Since you and I are a match made in heaven, why don't we establish a lover's relationship in the intimate relationship game? A lover's relationship? You must be joking with me, right? Shi Yao's hands trembled, and she nearly dropped her yogurt. She secretly rejoiced that her yogurt wasn't ruined before she replied hesitantly, What did you say? Let's establish a relationship, a lover's relationship. As Mr. Numbers spoke, Shi Yao saw him raise his gun slightly, and a sentence that she was already used to appeared on her screen. Less than 111,111 eliminated. Give me a recommendation vote with 98K. Following which, a new page popped up on her phone screen. Winner's chicken dinner. Chicken dinner just like that? I haven't even done anything yet. Just as Shi Yao was about to compliment Mr. Numbers on his awesomeness, Mr. Numbers spoke up once more. It's at the bottom left corner, in the friends section. Tap on it, and you'll see that I've already submitted the request. Go and accept it. This matter isn't over yet? Shi Yao blinked her eyes in confusion. About that, may I ask why you suddenly want to establish a lovers? Shi Yao was a little embarrassed to say the word. Of course, an intimate relationship. There's no particular reason. Didn't you say that we're a match made in heaven? A match made in heaven? A match made in heaven? This is just business flattery. You can't take it seriously, can you? Shi Yao was just about to say, Aren't you joking? But on the other end of the phone, Mr. Numbers seemed to have guessed what she was going to say next, and he spoke up once more. I meant what I said earlier. Could it be that you were lying when you praised me? The words that Shi Yao was about to say got stuck in her throat, and she couldn't bring herself to say them anymore. No, how could that be? My words of praise couldn't be any truer than that. It's even truer than milk tea. I believe you. Mr. Numbers' tone was filled with trust as he said, So, you should go ahead and agree to it. If she didn't agree, wouldn't that mean that all her praises were fake? It was clearly just a simple business compliment. How did she end up marrying herself off in the game as she bragged about it? Shi Yao tapped on the intimate relationship tab, and sure enough, less than 111,111 had requested an intimate relationship with him. It's just a game, so it shouldn't be a big deal for us to become lovers. Shi Yao gritted her teeth as she clicked accept. Returning to the main hall, Shi Yao said, I agree to it. Just like that, my first in-game marriage is given away. Chapter 410. If there's anything I didn't do well enough, I hope that you can forgive me. Are you trying to be courteous? Shi Yao pondered for a moment before replying politely, Same here. If there's anything I didn't do well enough, I hope that you can forgive me as well. Mr. Numbers only replied with a single word before falling silent. He tapped on the keyboard and started the game. While waiting for the game to start, Shi Yao munched on her apple as she stared at the wall in front of her. Is there something wrong with my senses? Why do I feel like I've been tricked into a trap? And this trap is so huge that I'm still helping the other party earn money even though I'm being sold. By the time the game ended, it was already 11 at night. Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai hadn't returned to the dormitory yet. Lin Jiej bade Shi Yao good night in the game and waited for her to log off before putting down his phone and heading to the bathroom. Halfway through his shower, Lin Jiej suddenly heard a commotion outside through the bathroom door. He knew that Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai had returned. After his shower, as soon as Lin Jiej opened the bathroom door, Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai immediately spoke up. Xia Shangzhou, Boss, do you know how pitiful I am? Lu Binlai, Boss, little Lai is also pitiful. Do you know that? I don't. Lin Jiej replied nonchalantly as he dried his hair with a towel. After which, he added, I don't want to know either. Xia Shangzhou, woo-woo, this is so heart-wrenching. Boss, you really don't love me anymore. Lu Binlai, it's all your fault, grandson. It's definitely your fault that boss doesn't care about me anymore. Xia Shangzhou, bullshit, you grandson. You're the one who implicated me. Lu Binlai, I'm so handsome. How could I possibly implicate you? Lin Jiej calmly blew on his hair, while the two of them were bickering with one another. When he finally put down the hairdryer, he glanced at the two people sitting beside him, and from their expressions, it seemed like they were really depressed. Forget it. Since it's my and Soft Bun's wedding today, I'll just show them some concern. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej pulled over a chair and sat down. Come, let me hear how pitiful you are. Xia Shangzhou, I'll go first. Lu Binlai, I'll go first. I'm your grandfather, so don't you know how to respect your elders? Xia Shangzhou replied, Then there's another phrase, loving the young. Lu Binlai, all right then. Since my grandson has said so, I'll give it to you then. Oblivious to the fact that he had fallen into a trap, Xia Shangzhou turned to Lin Jiej and said without any hesitation, Boss, aren't we going to be in year 4 this holiday? Wouldn't that be an internship? So, I started to submit my resume. Well, there's one thing I didn't tell you. I invested in your family's company. I didn't tell you because I was afraid that you'd find out and directly put me in the company. I'm a person with excellent character. I won't think of taking the back door. I still want to see my own strength. You're overthinking things. Other than Soft Bun, I won't open a back door for anyone else. Lin Jiej mercilessly pierced through Xia Shangzhou's delusions. Xia Shangzhou clutched his chest and whimpered, Boss, there's always love. Can't you give me some face? Lin Jiej's lips twitched, but he didn't say a word. Chapter 411. I put on a suit and tie, and for the first time in my life, I called for a private car and headed to my boss's company. I gave it my all and applied for the job, and yesterday, I finally received a call that I was approved. Do you know how happy I was? At that moment, I felt as if I had the entire world in my hands. But today, when I went to my boss's company to report in, I realized that what awaited me wasn't heaven but hell. I was actually assigned to my boss's big sister, and when I went to look for her with my application, she was in the middle of reprimanding someone. A second after I knocked on the door, she crushed a glass cup with her bare hands. Isn't that even scarier? What's even scarier is that my big sister must have done this to me because I accidentally saw her naked back then. She made me run around the city all day to buy food for her, and when I did, she wouldn't even eat it. I thought about it for a moment, and as a top student of G University, how could I allow myself to be trampled on by my big sister like that? So, I rose up and told my big sister that I'm quitting my job. The next second, my big sister raised her fist at me, saying something like, "Do you think that my department is your back door, that you can come and go as you please?" And then, Lu Binlai asked curiously. And then, the confident look that Xia Shangzhou had on when he was recounting his rise vanished in an instant, replaced by a withered expression reminiscent of a shriveled eggplant. And then, I chickened out. I told my big sister that I was wrong and that I wouldn't leave anymore. "I'm willing to do anything for you. Putting aside the 5 years of my contract, I'm even willing to work for you for 10 years. After that, I was forced to sell my body to my boss's company for 10 years. 10 years. 10 years. Those were the best 10 years of my life." Ignoring Xia Shangzhou's wails, Lin Jiej turned to the gloating Lu Binlai and asked, "What about you?" Hearing Lin Jiej's question, Lu Binlai's face immediately turned sullen. "I'm much worse off than old Xia. Didn't I just receive my wife's Alipay some time ago? I thought that I would finally be able to get my wife's phone number. But this afternoon, I received a call from a public phone. My wife asked me to meet her in the woods at school. I dressed up and went over, but a second before I arrived, my wife threw the money in my face. Look, the red mark on my face is from the money. My wife even told me that she doesn't know how petty I am. I said, 'What do I have to do for you to give me your phone number?' She told me not to do anything. She told me to stay as far away from her as the sun is. My plan has failed just like that. I'll have to come up with a new plan. Boss, don't you think that I'm pitiful?" Hearing Lu Binlai's words, Xia Shangzhou also turned to Lin Jiej and asked, "Me too. Am I even more pitiful than little Lai Lai?" Lin Jiej shot a glance at the two men before him before leisurely leaning back on his chair. "Since the two of you are so pitiful, why don't I tell you a story about your recovery to cheer you up a little?" Xia Shangzhou, "Boss really does love me." Lu Binlai, "I'm all ears." Before Lin Jiej could say anything, a smile had already crept onto his lips. "Today is my wedding day with Yao Yao." Chapter 412. Before Lin Jiej could say anything, a smile had already crept onto his lips. "Today is my wedding day with Yao Yao." As he spoke, Lin Jiej took out his phone and logged into the game. He tapped into the intimate relationship icon and showed it to Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai, saying, "Here, the proof." Xia Shangzhou could vaguely hear the sound of a knife stabbing into his chest. "Boss, are you sure you're treating us and not kicking us while we're down?" Lu Binlai could clearly hear his heart shattering into pieces. "I was wrong. I shouldn't have listened. I should have covered my ears and refused to listen." It took a long while before Lu Binlai finally managed to compose his shattered heart. With a sliver of hope in his heart, he asked, "Boss, are you telling us this so that you can give us wedding candies so that you can treat us?" Hearing Lu Binlai's words, Xia Shangzhou also came to his senses and asked, "Boss, are you intending to bring little Lai Lai and me to Golden Resplendence to celebrate so that little Lai Lai and I can forget about our troubles?" "You're imagining things a little too much." Lin Jiej put away his phone and lazily leaned back on his chair. "My words earlier were meant to be a form of treatment for you." Xia Shangzhou clutched his chest and asked, "Boss, your treatment is a form of dog abuse." Lu Binlai rubbed his chest and replied, "Other people's treatment is a form of rebirth, but your treatment is a form of corpse whipping." "Dog abuse? Corpse whipping?" Lin Jiej frowned. "Do you think that my words earlier aren't enough to treat you?" He felt that it was indeed a form of treatment. It was as if the gloom of his life had been swept away, and his future had been filled with light. Lin Jiej pondered for a moment before replying, "All right then. Since that's the case, I'll continue treating you then. When we were playing today, Yao Yao praised me. She said that I'm an esports addict." Xia Shangzhou and Lu Binlai glanced at one another before turning their gazes to Lin Jiej. "Boss, are you sure that's a compliment?" Lin Jiej was so immersed in the nickname Shi Yao had given him that he didn't pay any attention to the other two's expressions. A hint of pride surfaced on his face as he asked, "Isn't this nickname particularly pleasing to the ears? Pretty boy who's addicted to video games. I think he's super handsome, don't you think so?" "Let me tell you guys, Yao Yao not only praised me like this, she also said that my acting value is out of this world. She also said that she didn't know the meaning of handsome until she met me. Then she understood the true meaning of handsome. After saying those words, Lin Jiej raised his eyebrows. How is it? Do you feel like you're cured now? Xia Shangzhou shook his head. What do you mean by cured? I don't know. All I know is that I was slaughtered like a dog. Lu Binlai nodded his head cooperatively. Similarly, I don't know what treatment means either. All I know is that not only was my corpse whipped, I was even raped. Since that's the case, I guess I'll have to resort to my final trump card then. Before Lin Jiej could say anything, a hint of embarrassment had already surfaced on his face. Yao Yao said that my handsomeness is infuriating to the gods, whereas her beauty is infuriating to the heavens. We're a match made in heaven. Chapter 413. Before Lin Jiej could finish his words, Lu Binlai abruptly stood up, clutched his stomach, and rushed to the toilet. Boss, my stomach hurts. Damn it, this person is really shameless to steal my lines. Xia Shangzhou cursed Lu Binlai from inside out before standing up as well. Boss, it suddenly occurred to me that Linimu has something to tell me, and it's something very important. I have to go and take a look. The door to the toilet and dormitory room were slammed shut one after another. Lin Jiej was the only one left in room 501. Sitting on the chair, he furrowed his brows. Then, in his heart, he silently completed the sentence that he had just been interrupted. It's destined. It's a blessing from the heavens. Then, he stared at the ceiling for a while with the corner of his lips slightly raised. Then, he got up and prepared to sleep. After bidding Mr. Numbers good night in the game, Shi Yao put down her phone and went to take a bath. By the time she was done washing up and tidying up, it was already close to midnight. Perhaps it was due to her relaxed state after her exams, but she couldn't fall asleep that night. Lying on her bed, her thoughts ran wild for a while before she picked up her phone, tapped into the internet, and started watching Adonis Legends competition videos. Even though Shi Yao had watched those videos many times, she still couldn't help but feel her blood racing every time she watched them. On the bullet screen, she saw someone saying, "The elusive God L posted on Weibo." So, she quickly exited the streaming website and tapped into Weibo. She didn't use Weibo often, so the number of followers she had was pitifully low. Of course, the number of times she posted on Weibo could be counted on one hand, but every single one of them was related to Legend. She only followed a single person, and that was Legend. She entered Legend's Weibo page and saw that he had indeed posted a Weibo post this afternoon. In truth, her Adonis didn't use Weibo much either. Even though he had over 10 million followers, he had less than 10 posts to date. Even this latest Weibo post was just an advertisement for an event. The content was boring. It was just an advertisement, and those who reposted it would receive Legend's signature as a prize. Even though the content was boring, Shi Yao still earnestly read through Legend's Weibo post from start to finish without missing a single word. She even joined the army of reposts that numbered more than 100,000. After reposting, she pondered for a moment before replying, "Pull down the chances of winning a prize." She felt that the probability of winning a prize was too low, so she reposted it a few more times before exiting Weibo. Returning to the streaming platform, Shi Yao finished watching half of the match before finally feeling a little sleepy, so she took off her earphones. Just as she was about to put down her phone, she saw a notification on WeChat. Tapping on it, she saw that it was a group advertisement sent by her classmates. Paying no heed to it, she subconsciously tried to exit WeChat, only to catch sight of Liang Mumu. She hesitated for a moment, but eventually, she still clicked on it and watched the video that Liang Mumu had sent to her earnestly from start to end. Just like that, the drowsiness that she had just felt vanished without a trace. At the same time, in room 501, Lin Jiej, who had been lying on his bed for a very long time, was just about to fall asleep when his phone suddenly rang. He opened his eyes and glanced at the screen of his phone. It was a reminder that he had set up earlier. On the 30th, you have a date with Soft Bun at Mountain Changming. The time is 11 a.m. Chapter 414. Today was the 29th, 0:01 a.m., in other words. There were only 35 hours left before he would be confessing to Soft Bun. To be more precise, it was 34 hours and 59 minutes. Wait, it was already 02 minutes on the 29th, so it would be 34 hours and 58 minutes. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej felt his heart beating faster and faster. Even his breathing had somehow gotten a little hurried. He had already made arrangements for his confession a few days ago, but he still couldn't help but feel a little nervous. Closing his eyes, he went through the entire process of his confession in his mind. After making sure that he hadn't missed anything, his heart finally calmed down. But a moment later, he couldn't help but turn around and think about his confession the next day. In the end, he still couldn't help but feel a little unconfident. Even though he had memorized most of the details, he still couldn't help but tap on the notebook on his phone to look at the rules and regulations he had recorded. Passion fruit, loquat, watermelon, pineapple, pomegranate, roasted duck, vanilla ice cream, and crab roe buns. These were Soft Bun's favorites, so he had specially instructed the open-air restaurant at the top of Mountain Changming to prepare them. He even told the driver that he would place the potato chips and milk tea in the car the next day. When Lin Jiej reached the end of the list, he couldn't help but frown. On the day of his grandfather's birthday, when Soft Bun was chatting with his older sister, she mentioned the days of the month when she felt uncomfortable. Soft Bun said that it was on the 28th of every month, which was these few days. His older sister told him to keep warm, drink brown sugar water, avoid cold and spicy food, and not overexert himself. Crap, I didn't take her menstrual period into consideration when I was preparing the confession. It looks like I have to make some changes to the details, however. He had personally made a trip to Mountain Changming to ensure that there were no problems with the details, but if he were to call them tomorrow morning, would they be reliable? While contemplating, Lin Jiej flipped around once more, and his gaze fell on Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou, who were lying on the bed. Compared to the staff, these two seemed to be more reliable. Lin Jiej pondered for a moment before clearing his throat and asking, "Are you guys free tomorrow?" Xia Shangzhou was the more honest one, so he swiftly replied, "It's the weekend tomorrow, so we're off." Sensing danger, Lu Binlai hesitated for half a minute before replying, "No, what's wrong?" Lin Jiej was very satisfied with the answer. "Then, shall the two of you set off for Mountain Changming at 5 tomorrow morning?" Lu Binlai, "Boss, I just remembered that I have an appointment with the professor tomorrow." Xia Shangzhou grew bolder when he saw that someone had rejected him in advance. "Yeah, I remember now. I might have to work overtime this weekend." Lin Jiej didn't say a word as he stared intently at the duo. Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou grew more and more uneasy. In the end, Xia Shangzhou couldn't take it anymore and finally relented. Boss, I said it's possible. F***CK. This grandson of his stand was not firm, and he betrayed him just like that? Chapter 415. Xia Shangzhou, do you have amnesia? Lu Binlai, you traitor. You have no right to speak. Xia Shangzhou, you're the traitor. Your entire family is traitor. Lu Binlai, grandson, you sure are a fool. You even dragged yourself into your insults. Do you know that you belong to my family too? Faced with such a situation, a slight frown appeared on Lin Jiej's forehead as he coughed lightly. The dormitory room fell silent. Lu Binlai and Xia Shangzhou turned to Lin Jiej. Since he was already a coward, he might as well let his coward have some dignity. Thus, Lu Binlai spoke up, "Boss, is there any benefit in going to Mountain Changming?" "The heck, little Lai. You really have no morals. Why are you talking about benefits when helping a friend? Just watch me." As Xia Shangzhou spoke, he turned to Lin Jiej and said, "Boss, don't worry. I'm not as shameless as little Lai. I only want a 10-day tour to Golden Resplendence." Lu Binlai, as the old saying goes, the student surpasses the master. As expected of my grandson, you have truly reached the pinnacle of the path of shamelessness. This time, before Xia Shangzhou could retort, Lin Jiej had already spoken up. "Who is Yao Yao? Is she Lung Nuan's roommate? Since she's Lung Nuan's roommate, does that mean that Yao Yao has Lung Nuan's phone number? If I successfully woo Yao Yao, does that mean that I have Yao Yao's phone number as well? Similarly, If Yao Yao has Yao Yao's phone number, does that mean that I have it too? Lu Binlai, Daddy, there's no need to say anything else. As long as you say the word, even if I have to climb the heavens and dive into the sea of flames, I'll do it. Ignoring Lu Binlai's words, Lin Jiej calmly looked at Xia Shangzhou and said, Who am I? I am Lin Jiej, the successor of the Lin family enterprise. I'm about to graduate from university, and it won't be long before I take over the family business. By then, who will have the greatest say in the Lin family enterprise? Of course, it'll be me. In other words, I'll be able to promote whoever I want, and I'll be able to force their contract to expire. Of course, if I want someone to be trapped in the Lin family enterprise for the rest of their lives, Chongming Mountain is a good place. I can't wait to rush there right now. Xia Shangzhou shuddered and spoke without hesitation. Don't think that I'm in the dormitory now. My heart and soul are already at Mountain Chongming. Leaning leisurely against the wall, Lin Jiej asked nonchalantly, So, does this mean that you've agreed to help me? Lu Binlai, I've never rejected you. Boss, I promised you before you even said anything. It was Shirlai who rejected me. Xia Shangzhou retorted, T. You were the one who rejected me first. I was just following the trend. Boss, don't listen to little Lilai's nonsense. My feelings for you are like Zhu Yingtai's love for Liang Shambua or Juliet's love for Romeo. My determination to help you is like Ming Jiangnu crying for the Great Wall. What the heck was this? Was this analogy saying that he was Zhu Yingtai, Juliet, or Ming Jiangnu? Let's not talk about whether he was willing to be Liang Shambua and Romeo. If he was really Zhu Yingtai, Juliet, and Ming Jiangnu, then these three stories would definitely not be classic works, but works of horror. Chapter 416. Lin Jiej couldn't be bothered to argue with them, so he got straight to the point. Tomorrow morning, head to Mountain Changming and help me keep an eye on a few things. The first thing is to tell the open-air restaurant at the top of Changming Mountain to prepare a light dinner. Cancel all the spicy dishes and replace them with nutritious ones. Also, try to reduce the seafood as much as possible. Also, don't serve red wine. Replace it with brown sugar water. Oh, and for dessert, cancel the vanilla ice cream and replace it with taro pudding. The second thing is that Yao Yao mustn't overexert herself tomorrow, so it's best that we don't climb to the top of the mountain. When you arrive at Mountain Changming tomorrow, book a sightseeing bus. After instructing the important matters, Lin Jiej pondered for a moment. He was just about to say that there was nothing else when he suddenly recalled the words keep warm. They were going to have dinner at the top of the mountain tomorrow, and after dinner, he was going to bring Softbun to see the surprise he had prepared for her. After that, there would be the fireworks that he had specially arranged for her, and after that, it would be time for him to confess to her. Conservatively speaking, it would be around 9 p.m. by the time he was done with all of this. Since Softbun had accepted his confession, he couldn't possibly send her home right away. He still had to bring her to admire the night view of the mountain and admire the moon and stars. Perhaps he could even accompany her for supper. After all, she was such a delicious person. If that was the case, it would probably be midnight by the time they descended the mountain. Even though it was summer and the nights weren't cold, they were still in the suburbs, not to mention on top of a mountain. To be on the safe side, Lin Jiej changed his words into a reminder. Oh, also, get the staff to prepare a cape for me. Lin Jiej paused for a moment before adding, and a heat pack and a hot water bag as well. Who cares if I'll be able to use them or not? I'll just prepare them first. After confirming that he didn't miss anything out, Lin Jiej asked, Have you all memorized everything? Lu Binlai, Boss, don't worry. I've memorized every single word you said. For the sake of my future wife, I guarantee that I'll complete this mission perfectly. Xia Shangzhou, +1. As long as I think about how I can escape from my older sister's misery, putting aside memorizing everything, I'm willing to even give Boss a kick. Lin Jiej shot a disdainful glance at Xia Shangzhou and said, My leg says that he doesn't like you. Ha ha ha. Hearing Lin Jiej's words, Lu Binlai burst out laughing mercilessly at Xia Shangzhou. However, this time around, he didn't mock Xia Shangzhou at all. Instead, he quickly reined in his gloating smile and turned to Lin Jiej. Boss, is there something wrong with little Junior recently? It's none of your business whether soft bun is a special case or not. Lin Jiej shot a sidelong glance at Lu Binlai before lying back down on the bed. Lu Binlai shook his head regretfully and sighed. It's a pity that little Junior is a special case. If our boss were to confess his love to her tomorrow, wouldn't he be unable to enjoy a night of passion anymore? What do you mean a night of passion is worth 1,000 taels of gold? What nonsense are you spouting? Lin Jiej closed his eyes, but for some reason, his ears felt a little warm. Chapter 417. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej asked, "Do you really think that Softbun will accept my confession?" Lu Binlai: "Of course. Is there any girl in the world who would reject our boss's confession?" Xia Shangzhou: "Unless she's not a girl. No, even if she's a guy, there's no way he'll be able to reject our boss's confession, unless he's inhuman." Lu Binlai: "Old Xia is right. Besides, the fate between me and my wife is as deep as the ocean. Just my wife's phone number is enough to convince little Junior to accept your confession." Xia Shangzhou: "Ever since I was young, I've never won the lottery or picked up money on the streets. I'm already so pitiful, so I don't believe that I'll be so pitiful that I won't even have a chance to regain my freedom. So, I believe that the heavens will surely grant little Junior and boss a happy ending on account of my desire to escape from my sister's clutches." Lin Jiej silently closed his eyes. He shouldn't have asked those two. What the hell did they know? Lu Binlai: "Boss will be married off tomorrow, and room 501 will have another empty bed. I can't help but feel a little disappointed." "Me too," Xia Shangzhou said. "My heart feels heavy. My nearly 9-digit savings just went into little Junior's pocket, just like that." Lu Binlai: "But thinking about it, it's not a bad thing. This is equivalent to having another cloakroom for me, don't you think?" Xia Shangzhou: "Now that you mention it, I guess you're right. I'll be able to smoke openly in the dormitory room, and I won't have to be chased to the balcony by our boss who hates the smell of smoke anymore." While their words were infuriating, there was still a good omen that he and Soft Bun would end up together. Forget it. I won't argue with them anymore. With this thought in mind, Lin Jiej flipped his body over. Noticing Lin Jiej's actions, Lu Binlai hurriedly corrected himself. "But I'm poor, so I can't afford to buy that many clothes. I don't need a second cloakroom. Besides, how can Song Chaoshi compare to our boss? Even if our boss isn't in the dormitory room anymore, we should still keep our bed, and we should kowtow to him 3 times a day." Xia Shangzhou, whose survival instincts were also off the charts, nodded in agreement. "Smoking is harmful to one's health, and smoking indoors is also bad. I want to quit smoking." Lin Jiej's lips twitched as he asked, "So, do you really think that Yao Yao and I will end up together?" Lu Binlai: "Absolutely." Xia Shangzhou: "There's no doubt about it." Hearing the confident words of the duo, Lin Jiej fell into deep thought for a moment before closing his eyes once more. Come to think of it, this seemed to be the first time in his life that he was so unsure of something. All along, he had thought of himself as a confident and composed person, but when it came to Soft Bun, he saw a flaw in himself. So, is this the feeling of loving someone? Worried about personal gains and losses, nervous and uneasy, paranoid. On the 29th, at 8 a.m., Shurya woke up. She first went to the cafeteria for breakfast before returning to the dormitory to pack her things and prepare to go home. But before returning home, Shurya made a trip to the hospital to pay a visit to Grandpa Lin. By the time she left the hospital and returned home, it was almost evening. After dinner, Shurya accompanied her mother for a stroll downstairs. When she returned home, she saw that less than 111,111 had invited her into the game, so she logged into the game. Chapter 418. It was only 9 in the morning. She didn't sleep this early even when she was taking her examinations. Given that it was the start of the summer holidays, only a fool would sleep this early. Shuryao blinked her eyes and asked doubtfully, "It's still early. Is that so?" Mr. Numbers replied with a single word before falling silent. After another round, Mr. Numbers, who had been silent for the better part of the game, spoke up once more. "It's already 10. Aren't you going to sleep yet?" This was really weird. In the past, They would play until 1 or 2 in the morning. What was going on today? Mr. Numbers kept urging her to sleep. Shi Yao frowned and replied, "Isn't it only 10? Besides, I won't be able to fall asleep even if you want me to." "All right then, let's play another round." As the host of the game, less than 111,111's voice sounded in the room, and he started the game. At 10:27 a.m., Shi Yao heard Mr. Numbers' hypnotizing voice through her earpiece once more. "Can you sleep now?" Shi Yao tilted her head and pondered for a moment before a possibility came to her mind. "Do you have something to do? If you have something to do, you should go ahead and do it." 111111 I don't. I actually didn't get it right. Shi Yao felt even more perplexed. "If you don't have anything to do, why do you keep urging me to sleep?" Tomorrow you..." Mr. Numbers seemed to have said something, but he suddenly fell silent. Shi Yao waited for a moment, but seeing that Mr. Numbers wasn't saying anything, she couldn't help but ask, "What's wrong with me tomorrow?" Less than 111,111. "Oh, I mean that you won't have the energy to sleep tomorrow if you sleep so late." Somehow, Shi Yao felt that this wasn't what Mr. Numbers was trying to say, but she couldn't figure out what he was trying to say. So, she took a bite of the ham sausage and replied, "As long as I'm full, there's no way I won't be energetic." Mr. Numbers fell silent for a few seconds before he replied, "Even if you're energetic, you should still be sleeping. Sleeping early and waking up early is good for your health, especially for girls." Was it really that simple? Why didn't I believe it? Shi Yao pondered for a moment as she ate the ham sausage, but she couldn't come up with anything. "So," she said, "all right then, I'll play one more round before going to bed." After a few seconds, 111111 said, "Okay." Then, the game began. A minute later, they boarded the plane, and as soon as the plane could be parachuted down, Mr. Numbers brought her down to the ground. After that, Mr. Numbers was run over by a car, and after that, she was left alone, watching helplessly as she was pummeled to death by the fists of 2 people. After that, Mr. Numbers' voice sounded in her ears, "All right, the game is over. You can go to sleep now." So, his so-called game was to bring her to the ground as fast as possible and turn her into a box. In that case, it would be better to have no game at all. Shi Yao puffed up her cheeks. She couldn't be bothered with Mr. Numbers anymore, so she logged out of the game and went to take a bath. However, when she returned to the bedroom after taking a shower, she found that her phone had received a few WeChat messages and a text message. She took a look at her WeChat first. It was a message from Mr. Numbers. "Are you angry? I really want you to sleep early and wake up early. I'll give you back 10 chicken dinners later." Ignoring less than 111,111, Shi Yao went straight to the message section. It was a message from Lin Jiej. "Tomorrow at 11 a.m., Mountain Changming. Don't forget about it." Chapter 419. Wasn't this something that they had agreed on a long time ago? Was he reminding her today because he was afraid that she would forget about it? Shi Yao didn't think too much into it. She tapped on the screen a few times and replied, "I didn't forget about it. I remember it." Perhaps it was because Lin Jiej was looking at his phone, but a second after she sent the message, the screen lit up right after she put down her phone. Lin Jiej, His reply was simply to express that he had received her message, right? If that was the case, there was no need for her to reply to him, right? Shi Yao pondered for a moment before deciding not to reply to Lin Jiej's message. Instead, she put down her phone and went to apply her skincare cream. Just as she was about to finish applying the lotion on her face, her phone rang again. It was another message from Lin Jiej. "It's good that you remember it. It's good that you remember it." Why does there seem to be something wrong with those 2 words? Shi Yao stared at her phone screen for a moment, but she couldn't find anything wrong with it. Then, she remembered that Lin Jiej had sent her 2 consecutive messages, so she replied with, "See you tomorrow." Putting down her phone, Shi Yao went back to applying her skincare cream. Her phone rang again. Logically speaking, she thought that Lin Jiej would reply with, "See you tomorrow," so she wasn't in a hurry to check his message. When she was finally done, she lay down on her bed and picked up her phone. It was only then that she realized that she had only gotten 2 words right. "Lin Jiej, I just checked the route. If we meet at 11 tomorrow, you'll be heading out at around 9:20. She wasn't a fool. It was common knowledge that she should know, so why did he have to repeat it to her? While Shi Yao was perplexed, she thought that Lin Jie was probably just giving her a friendly reminder. So, she still replied with a friendly tone. I understand. Thank you. Shi Yao thought that this was the end of the conversation, but a minute later, she received yet another message from Lin Jie. Will you be able to wake up tomorrow? Do you need me to wake you up? It's 9 in the morning, not 5 in the morning. Why can't I wake up? Is Lin Jie sure that I didn't ask the wrong question? Shi Yao blinked her eyes, thinking that her eyes were playing tricks on her. She read the message carefully once more, but before she could reply to Lin Jie's message, another message popped up on her screen. Perhaps you should set an alarm? Forget it. I'll pick you up tomorrow and wake you up. Seriously? It's just a field trip. Why does he make it sound so important? This wasn't Lin Jie's style at all. The more Shi Yao read through the message, the more she felt that something was amiss. Biting on her finger, she pondered for a moment before a thought suddenly struck her, and her eyes lit up. She swiftly typed, I got it. You're not Lin Jie. You're Sis Jai, right? Only Sis Jai would treat her as though she was ignorant of the ways of the world, caring for her as though she would be at a disadvantage no matter what she did. Without waiting for the other party's reply, Shi Yao, who had already confirmed her suspicions, continued sending messages. The closer it got to the confession, the more nervous Lin Jie became. He was afraid that he wouldn't be able to wake up the next day, so he set an alarm clock every minute and set 10 alarm clocks in a row. Chapter 420. But before he could even finish writing his message, he received a reply from her. She said that he was Lin Jie. In the past, she treated me as her grandfather, and now, she's treating me as her sister. Just what in the world is she up to? Lin Jie was just about to give Shi Yao a call when he received yet another message from her. Sis Jie, I know that you're concerned about me, but I'm not a child. I know how to take care of myself. I'm the one who's concerned about her. What's Sis Jie? Lin Jie harumphed inwardly as another message popped up on his screen. Shi Yao, but Sis Jie, I'm still very grateful to you. Let's meet at the entrance of Mountain Changming tomorrow. Moi. Moi, moi, moi. Lin Jie's attention was instantly captured by those three words. Moi. Moi. Softbun sent me a moi. Even though she thought that he was Lin Jie, the fact that she sent it to his phone meant that she was sending it to him moi. With this thought in mind, a faint smile crept up Lin Jie's lips. Perhaps it was due to his lack of response, but Shi Yao realized that something was amiss, so she sent him another message. You aren't Sis Jie? It looks like Softbun isn't as dumb as she used to be. Lin Jie raised his hand and replied, What do you think? Shi Yao, Shi Yao. I'm sorry, I thought that you were Sis Jie. Shi Yao. That's because I know Sis Jie to be a gentle and considerate person. But when did you become so naggy? Gentle? Considerate? Lin Jie? Are you sure these three words can be put together? It can't be that Softbun's language was taught by the gatekeeper, right? Naggy? Why did those messages sound like concern to Lin Jie, but naggy to me? Do you have to be so blatant about the difference in treatment? Forget it, there's no need to make a fuss about it. After tomorrow night, Softbun will be mine. As for Lin Jie, what kind of storm could a woman like her stir up? With such thoughts in mind, Lin Jie took a look at the time. It was already close to midnight, so he quickly replied, It's getting late. You should sleep early. Shi Yao, good night. Lin Jie, good night. Seeing Lin Jie's good night, Shi Yao didn't respond to his message. Instead, she put down her phone, turned on the sleep light, and closed her eyes. Just as Shi Yao was about to doze off, she suddenly thought of a certain matter. Mr. Numbers had been urging her to sleep while they were playing the game that night, and after she received Lin Jie's message, Lin Jie had been worrying that she might never wake up. These were clearly two different matters, but why did they feel so similar to one another? They were originally cold and reserved, but they suddenly became so talkative and long-winded. This increasingly strange scene made her a little uncomfortable. But then again, how could two people change at the same time? What a tacit understanding, as if they were the same person. Lin Jie's alarm didn't come in handy at all. He woke up before 5 in the morning, and after that, he couldn't fall asleep anymore. He woke up before 7 o'clock, took a shower, and washed his hair. He tossed and turned for a full hour before he stopped. Chapter 421. Lu Binlai. 1 word, handsome. 2 words, super handsome. 3 words, super handsome. 4 words, so handsome that I'm turning gay. I'm not interested in you. Lin Jie coldly interrupted Lu Binlai's words as he looked at Xia Shangzhou. Compared to Lu Binlai's exaggerated compliments, Xia Shangzhou was even more unconventional. Boss, your looks are out of this world. Even if you're wearing the Emperor's new clothes, you're still handsome. The Emperor's new clothes? Isn't it just streaking? Lin Jie glared at Xia Shangzhou. Xia Shangzhou shuddered and quickly changed his words. Boss, what I meant earlier was to compliment your looks. I didn't mean to imply anything else. You're really handsome. If I were a woman, I'd be racking my brains to climb into your bed every night. Lin Jie sneered coldly as he tossed an indifferent dream on at him. Then, he raised his chin toward the mirror. Even though he had agreed to meet Shi Yao at the entrance of Mountain Changming at 11, but Lin Jie was already waiting at the entrance of Mountain Changming before it was even 9. It was still early. He had slept late last night and woken up early in the morning. Sitting in the car, he waited for a while, and eventually, he felt a little drowsy. He took a look at the time and confirmed that it was still early. So, he set another 10 alarms before closing his eyes. At 10:30, his alarm rang punctually. Lin Jie yawned as he adjusted the back of his seat and sat up. He looked at the mirror above the car, and just as he was about to check the dashboard, someone knocked on the car window. He turned around and saw that it was Shi Yao, who had arrived half an hour earlier than him. He quickly put away the mirror and pushed open the car door. Morning? Morning, Shi Yao replied. Then, she asked, have you been here for long? Nope, I just arrived, Shi Yao replied with an O, not suspecting anything. According to their original plan, Lin Jie would bring Shi Yao to a nearby farmhouse after the two of them met up. Even though Shi Yao had arrived half an hour earlier, there wasn't enough time for them to do anything else. So, Lin Jie suggested that they have lunch first. Of course, Shi Yao wouldn't turn him down. It was already 1 in the afternoon by the time they finished lunch, so Lin Jie and Shi Yao entered Mountain Changming. Even though it was summer, the trees were lush, and the river was gurgling. The temperature was several degrees lower than in the city. The two of them walked along the ancient stone path up the mountain. Many people came to the Changming Mountain for sightseeing, and many of them were couples. Seeing a man buying a bottle of water for a lady, Lin Jie followed suit. Seeing a man holding an umbrella for a lady, he also bought an umbrella for Shi Yao. Seeing a man taking a photo for a lady, he also asked Shi Yao if she wanted to take a souvenir. On the way up Lianshan Mountain, there was a wishing tree with wooden plaques tied with a red string hanging from it. Seeing that there were couples going there to make a wish, Lin Jie brought Shi Yao along as well. Just like that, under Lin Jie's guidance, the two of them managed to reach the midpoint of the mountain. Lin Jie remembered that these few days were a special period for Shi Yao, so he asked her if she was tired and if she wanted to take the sightseeing bus, but he was rejected. In the end, he still called for a sightseeing bus to bring them up the mountain. As they wanted to enjoy the scenery along the way, the speed of the sightseeing bus was very slow. By the time he reached the top of the mountain, it was already dusk. The sun was setting in the west, and the entire mountain top was dyed red. Today's weather was exceptionally good. The sky was blue, and the clouds were white. Enjoying the cool breeze of the evening, Lin Jie took in the scenery of Mountain Changming. Subconsciously, his gaze fell on Shi Yao, who was standing by the side. She was taking pictures of the setting sun with her phone, and Lin Jie turned his head to look at her. Chapter 422. As the sun gradually set, Shi Yao, who was done taking photos, turned around and said to Lin Jie, I didn't think that such a remote place would have such beautiful scenery. Lin Jie nodded as he turned his gaze to the clouds not too far away. But the most beautiful thing isn't the scenery. His voice wasn't too loud, and the wind was too strong. so Shi Yao didn't hear him clearly. What is it? Lin Jie didn't say a word. He gazed at the clouds for a long while before replying, It's nothing. Let's go and have dinner. All right. Shi Yao immediately put away her phone, and a smile crept up her face. Then, she turned around and headed toward the small town on the mountain. Lin Jie followed behind Shi Yao, and as he stared at her back, he couldn't help but recall the words he had said earlier. But the most beautiful thing isn't the scenery but you. Lin Jie brought Shi Yao to an open-air restaurant. Compared to the bustling scene when they first entered the restaurant, the place where Lin Jie and Shi Yao were seated was much quieter. The dining table was huge, and Shi Yao and Lin Jie sat facing each other. At the center of the table was a bouquet of fresh flowers, and beside it was a candlestick with 9 candles. Beneath the table was a burning mosquito-repellent incense. It was hard to tell what kind of flowers were planted around them, but the fragrance was strong, but it wasn't pungent. Lin Jie had ordered the dishes in advance, so after he and Shi Yao took their seats, the waiter asked, Mr. Lin, shall we serve the dishes now? Lin Jie nodded without saying a word. With a smile, the waiter replied with an all right before leaving. Not too long later, a waiter pushed a cart over. After the waiter placed the dishes on the table, Shi Yao picked up her chopsticks, and just as she was about to pick up the sweet and sour pork, a thought suddenly occurred to her, and she raised her head to ask, Isn't this the summer camp? Where are the others? When she saw him alone in the afternoon, she thought that the others had already gone up the mountain. Yet, it was already dinner time, and it was still just the two of them. Hearing Shi Yao's question, Lin Jie, who was in the midst of scooping soup for her, raised his head in bewilderment and asked, What others? Shi Yao blinked her eyes, and it took her a moment to recover. You only invited me to the summer camp? That's right. Lin Jie nodded as he placed the bowl of soup in front of Shi Yao. Thank you. Shi Yao fell silent for a moment before replying. I thought that you and I weren't the only ones at the summer camp. There'll be others too. I didn't. I only called for you. Lin Jie raised his head to look at Shi Yao. The flickering candlelight reflected in his eyes made him look even more dashing and handsome. Shi Yao opened her mouth, wanting to ask why, but before she could do so, Lin Jie, who was seated opposite her, spoke up once more. I have something to tell you later. So, he called her out because he had something to talk to her about. What a coincidence, seeing him today. She also had something to talk to him about. Could it be that they wanted to talk about the same thing? With such thoughts in mind, Shi Yao's eyebrows creased into crescents as she said, Me too. There's something I want to talk to you about today. Huh. To think that Soft Bun would also have something to tell him. Could it be that she had prepared a surprise for him as well? But her surprise shouldn't be bigger than the surprise he gave her, right? Lin Jie maintained his composure and said, Shall we talk about it after dinner? Sure. Shi Yao nodded in agreement. An hour later, Shi Yao finally put down her chopsticks. After the waiter left with the dessert, Shi Yao asked, What do you want to talk to me about? You're tuning in to the Romance Rendezvous YouTube channel. We're so grateful for your support, and don't forget to subscribe to join us on this incredible journey through captivating stories. Your generosity through donations truly makes a world of difference, as it's the primary source of revenue that allows me to expand and enhance this channel for you. Thank you from the bottom of my heart for being a part of this adventure.